In my 50 years of teaching, I have discovered that 97% of people experience these mysterious repetitions, the same numbers, objects, even sounds, but only 3% understand what their soul is truly trying to tell them. What I am about to share will change how you see every coincidence for the rest of your life. Your higher self has been patiently waiting for this moment. My dear friend, I know you have been searching for meaning in these strange patterns. Maybe you have felt confused, even worried that you are overthinking simple coincidences. Perhaps you have asked friends or searched online, only to find surface explanations that do not satisfy your soul's deeper knowing. You are not alone in this spiritual bewilderment. Every day, sincere seekers come to me with the same question burning in their hearts. I understand the frustration you feel when you try to explain these experiences to others who dismiss them as mere imagination or overthinking. I know the loneliness of sensing something profound happening in your life, but having no one who truly understands. I have seen the confusion in the eyes of thousands of students who feel they are going crazy because they cannot stop noticing these patterns that seem to follow them wherever they go. But let me tell you something that will bring immediate relief to your heart. You are not losing your mind, you are finding your soul. These repetitions are not signs of mental instability, they are signs of spiritual awakening. Your consciousness is expanding beyond the narrow boundaries of ordinary perception, and you are beginning to sense the deeper currents of intelligence that flow beneath the surface of everyday life. Unlike others who may give you generic meanings for numbers or objects, I will teach you to decode your soul's unique language. This wisdom comes from direct divine communion, tested through decades of guiding thousands of souls back to their spiritual home. You will not just learn what these signs might mean, you will learn how to have a living conversation with your own higher self. Today, you will transform bewildering repetitions into clear spiritual guidance. You will develop unshakable faith in your soul's communication system. You will understand that you are part of a cosmic conversation happening within you. Most importantly, you will learn to access deeper dimensions of existence through these sacred signs, moving from surface living to soul living. You will leave behind the pain of feeling crazy or obsessive about noticing patterns. No longer will you dismiss important spiritual guidance as mere coincidence. You will stop living disconnected from your soul's natural communication system, and you will never again miss the profound spiritual awakening that is trying to happen through you. Let me tell you a story that changed my understanding of how the divine speaks to us through the world of form. Many years ago, when I was still learning from my great guru Sri Yukteswar, I was walking through the ashram gardens struggling with a deep spiritual question. I had been meditating for hours, seeking guidance about whether I should accept an invitation to teach in America. My mind was torn between duty to my homeland and the call of my soul to spread this ancient wisdom to the West. The decision felt overwhelming. To leave India meant leaving behind everything familiar: my beloved guru, the sacred places where I had received my deepest spiritual experiences, the culture that had nurtured my understanding of the divine. Yet there was an inner calling that I could not ignore, a voice within my heart that whispered of souls waiting in distant lands who needed these teachings. As I walked in contemplation, feeling the weight of this momentous choice, a single leaf fell from the mango tree above me and landed directly at my feet. I barely noticed it and continued walking, lost in my internal struggle. A few steps later, another leaf fell, again right in my path, then another, and another. After the seventh leaf fell precisely where I would step next, I stopped and looked up. The tree was full and green, there was no wind, no reason for these particular leaves to fall. Something in my heart told me to pay attention. I picked up one of the leaves and held it in my palm. As I gazed at it with complete attention, something extraordinary happened. I felt the life force within that leaf, its connection to the tree, to the earth, to the sun that had nourished it. In that moment of pure awareness, I understood that this simple leaf was carrying a message from the infinite intelligence that orchestrates all of life. The leaf had 7 perfect points, and I suddenly remembered that 7 represents spiritual completion, the full cycle of divine unfoldment. Each leaf that had fallen was telling me that my spiritual preparation was complete, that it was time to fulfill my destiny of carrying these teachings across the ocean. That single moment of recognition changed the course of my entire life and brought these sacred teachings to millions of souls in the Western world. But the guidance did not stop there. As I stood holding that 7th leaf, feeling the profound certainty that comes when the soul recognizes divine direction, I noticed something else remarkable. The leaves had not fallen randomly, they had created a perfect path leading from where I had been walking toward the main gate of the ashram. the very gate through which I would eventually walk to begin my journey to America. My guru later explained to me that this was a demonstration of how consciousness orchestrates the world of form when we are ready to receive guidance. He said, "When your heart is truly open to divine will, the entire universe conspires to show you the way. The same intelligence that knows when each leaf will fall also knows the perfect timing for every step of your spiritual journey." But this was only the beginning of understanding how our souls speak to us through the language of repetition and attention. Let me share with you another story that will show you just how personally and specifically your higher self can guide you when you learn to listen. A businessman came to see me several years ago, deeply troubled and on the verge of losing everything he had worked for. His name was Robert, and he had built what appeared to be a successful importing business over 15 years of hard work. But beneath the surface, everything was crumbling. His company was failing due to problems he could not solve through effort alone. His marriage was struggling because he had become so consumed with trying to save his business that he had forgotten how to be present with his wife. He felt completely lost, as if everything he had believed about how life worked was proving false. But there was something else bothering him that he was almost embarrassed to mention. For 3 months, he had been seeing the number 444 everywhere on clocks when he randomly looked up, on receipts, on building addresses, even on license plates of cars that would pull up next to him at traffic lights. It was happening so frequently that he had started keeping a notebook to track the occurrences, and he showed me pages filled with dates, times, and locations where these numbers had appeared. He told me, "Master, I know this sounds crazy, but it is happening so often that I cannot ignore it anymore. Sometimes I see it 5 or 6 times in a single day. Yesterday, I woke up at 4:44 in the morning without an alarm. I received a bill for $444, and the address of a new client I visited was 444 Main Street. Am I losing my mind, or does this mean something?" I smiled and told him what I am telling you now. His soul was not trying to drive him crazy. It was trying to save his life. But before I explain what happened to Robert, let me tell you why his experience represents something that happens to all of us when our souls are preparing us for major transformation. I explained to him that the number 4 represents foundation, stability, and the solid ground of truth. It is the number of the earth element, of practical wisdom, of building something that will last. When it appears 3 times together, it is a powerful message that his current foundation was crumbling not to destroy him, but to make space for something much more solid and authentic to be built in his life. His soul was preparing him for this breakdown so he could experience a breakthrough. But here is the beautiful part of the story, and also the tragic part. Instead of listening to this divine guidance, Robert fought against it. He refused to consider that maybe his business needed to change direction. When I suggested that perhaps the 444 was calling him to examine the foundation of his life, not just his business practices, but his values, his priorities, his definition of success, he became agitated. He told me he did not have time for spiritual philosophy. He needed practical solutions to practical problems. He ignored his wife's requests for deeper communication, dismissing them as distractions from the urgent work of saving his company. He pushed harder instead of pausing to listen to what the universe was trying to tell him through these sacred repetitions. The breakdown came anyway, as breakdowns must when we resist the soul's guidance. Within 2 months, his business collapsed completely. His largest client canceled their contract, citing concerns about his company's stability. His bank called in a loan he could not repay. His wife, feeling completely abandoned and unheard, moved back to her mother's house, taking their 2 young children with her. But in that dark night of his soul, when everything he had built with his mind and will had crumbled, Robert finally remembered our conversation. He began to pay attention to those numbers, not with fear, but with curiosity and trust. When he saw 444, instead of feeling anxious about what might go wrong next, he would stop and ask, "What is my soul trying to tell me right now? What foundation needs to be strengthened in this moment?" Through this practice, something beautiful began to happen. Robert started to see that his old business had been built on a foundation of fear. Fear of not having enough, fear of not being successful enough, fear of what others would think if he failed. The 444 had been trying to show him that this foundation of fear could never support lasting happiness or real success. As he practiced listening to his soul's guidance through these numbers, Robert began to rebuild his life on entirely new principles. Instead of chasing only money, he started a business that served a deeper purpose, helping small farmers in developing countries connect directly with markets in America. bypassing exploitative middlemen. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations with his wife, he learned to communicate from his heart, sharing his fears and vulnerabilities instead of hiding behind a mask of competence. The most beautiful part of Robert's transformation was watching him learn to see the 444 as a loving reminder rather than an ominous warning. Whenever those numbers appeared, he would pause and ask himself, how can I strengthen the foundation of love in this moment? How can I build something today that will serve not just my ego's desires, but my soul's purpose? His wife began to see a completely different man, one who was present, vulnerable, and genuinely interested in building a life together rather than just accumulating achievements. His new business thrived because it was built on the solid foundation of service rather than the shaky ground of pure profit motive. Today, both his marriage and his business are stronger than they had ever been, built on the solid foundation his soul had been trying to guide him toward through those persistent, loving repetitions of 444. Robert later told me that he now sees those 3 months of intense 444 appearances as the most grace-filled period of his life, even though it was also the most challenging. He said, "Master, my soul spent 3 months trying to save me from years of suffering, but I was too proud and too frightened to listen. I am grateful it never gave up on me, even when I gave up on it." This man's story reveals the 3 levels of soul communication that I want to share with you. Understanding these levels will help you discern what your repeated signs are really trying to tell you, and it will prevent you from missing the profound guidance that is always available to you. The first level I call surface-level communication. This is when your subconscious mind, which is always processing millions of pieces of information, begins to notice patterns that your conscious mind has been missing. Perhaps you have been worried about money, and suddenly you start seeing the same number on price tags, bank balances, and receipts. Your deeper mind is trying to bring your attention to this area of your life that needs conscious focus. At this level, the repeated signs are like a gentle tap on the shoulder from your own inner wisdom, saying, "Pay attention here. Look more closely at this aspect of your experience. There is something important you need to see." This level is helpful and should not be dismissed, but it is just the beginning of what is possible when you learn to listen more deeply. Let me give you a specific example. A woman named Sarah came to me because she kept noticing red cars everywhere she went. At first, she thought it was just a coincidence, but it became so frequent that she started feeling like red cars were following her. When we explored this together, we discovered that red had been her deceased mother's favorite color, and her mother had always driven red cars. Sarah's subconscious mind had been registering these red cars all along, but her conscious attention had not been focused on them until she began going through a difficult divorce. Her deeper mind was drawing her attention to these red cars as a way of reminding her of her mother's strength and independence, qualities Sarah needed to access during this challenging transition in her own life. The second level is soul-level communication. This is when fragments of your soul memory wisdom from past lifetimes, connections to your soul purpose, remembrances of spiritual truths you have learned before, begin to surface through these repetitive signs. Robert's 444 was operating at this level. His soul remembered from other lifetimes the importance of building life on spiritual foundation rather than just material success. The numbers were helping him remember this ancient wisdom that was already within him. At this level, the signs carry a quality of deep recognition. You may not understand intellectually why a particular number or object feels so significant, but something in your heart knows that it is important. There is a feeling of coming home, of remembering something you had forgotten. These signs often appear during major life transitions when your soul is guiding you toward your next level of spiritual development. I remember a student named Michael who kept seeing the same homeless man on his way to work every day. At first, Michael would feel uncomfortable and would cross the street to avoid the encounter, but the man seemed to appear everywhere Michael went outside the grocery store, near the bus stop, even in the park where Michael went jogging. When Michael finally stopped and had a conversation with this man, he discovered that the homeless man had once been a successful musician who had lost everything due to addiction, but who had found profound spiritual wisdom through his suffering. This man became Michael's unexpected teacher, helping him understand that true wealth has nothing to do with material possessions and everything to do with inner peace and compassion. Later, in meditation, Michael remembered that in a previous lifetime, he had been a wealthy merchant who had ignored the suffering of the poor, focused only on accumulating riches. His soul was using the repeated encounters with this homeless man to heal that old karmic pattern and awaken his compassion. The sign was not random, it was his soul's way of completing unfinished spiritual learning from another time. The third and most profound level is cosmic level communication. This is when universal consciousness itself speaks to you through the forms and patterns of the material world. Every leaf, every number, every repeated object becomes a direct communication from the infinite intelligence that creates and sustains all of existence. At this level, you realize that there is no separation between you and the divine source. You are simply consciousness, recognizing itself through the mirror of physical experience. When you receive guidance at this cosmic level, there is often a quality of timelessness and profound peace that accompanies the recognition. You may feel as if the entire universe has conspired to deliver this particular message to you at this exact moment. There is a sense of being held and guided by a love so vast and intelligent that it takes your breath away. I experienced this level of communication during a particularly deep meditation many years ago. I had been sitting in silence for several hours when I opened my eyes and saw a spider spinning its web in the corner of my meditation room. As I watched this tiny creature work with such perfect precision and patience, I suddenly understood the cosmic principle of divine creation itself. I saw that just as the spider knows instinctively how to create its web without any external teaching, the universe knows how to create itself through the same innate intelligence. I realized that the same force that guides the spider to spin its web was also guiding my life, my spiritual development, and the lives of all beings everywhere. The spider had become a direct revelation of cosmic consciousness, showing me the divine order that underlies all apparent chaos. Now, how do you know which level is speaking to you? The key lies in the quality of your inner response. Surface-level communications usually create mental activity. You start analyzing and trying to figure out logical connections. You might find yourself making lists or doing research to understand what the pattern means. Your thinking mind becomes very active, trying to solve the puzzle. Soul-level communications touch your heart. You feel a deep resonance, even if you cannot immediately understand why. There is often an emotional response, sometimes even tears, as something deep within you recognizes the truth of what is being communicated. You may feel homesick for something you cannot name, or you may feel a profound sense of being loved and guided. Cosmic-level communications bring you into profound stillness in the presence of these signs. Your mind becomes quiet and you feel a direct knowing that transcends thought. There is often a sense of expansion, as if your individual self has momentarily dissolved into something infinitely larger. Time seems to stop, and you experience a direct communion with the source of all existence. But understanding these levels is beautiful. But how do you know which messages are meant for you personally? This brings us to what I call the divine language of repetition, and why your soul chooses this particular method to communicate with you rather than, say, speaking to you in dreams or sending you a vision. You see, my dear friend, repetition is not random in the spiritual dimensions. It is the soul's preferred communication method because repetition creates what we call spiritual resonance. Just as a tuning fork struck near another, tuning fork will cause the second one to vibrate at the same frequency. When your soul repeatedly presents you with the same sign, it is trying to attune your consciousness to a particular spiritual frequency. Think of it this way. Your soul exists in dimensions where all knowledge is available simultaneously. Past, present, and future are one continuous now. Past lives, future possibilities, the lessons you need to learn, the gifts you came here to share, all of this is perfectly clear to your higher self. But your human mind can only process information sequentially, one moment at a time, like reading a book page by page rather than absorbing the entire story instantly. So your soul, in its infinite patience and love, repeats the same message over and over until your human consciousness can receive and understand it. Each repetition is like a gentle wave washing against the shore of your awareness, gradually wearing away the resistance and limited thinking that prevents you from hearing what your higher self wants you to know. This is the spiritual science behind attention and consciousness. Where you place your attention, there your consciousness flows. When the same object or number keeps appearing in your awareness, your soul is literally training your attention to focus on a particular aspect of your spiritual development. Your awareness becomes the bridge between the infinite wisdom of your higher self and the practical needs of your human experience. But there is something even more profound happening here. Each time you notice a repeated sign, you are actually creating a sacred moment of choice. In that instant of recognition, you can either dismiss the experience as meaningless coincidence, or you can pause and open your heart to receive whatever guidance is being offered. Your response in these moments determines how much communication you will receive from your soul. When you consistently choose openness and receptivity, your soul learns that you are ready for deeper guidance, and the signs often become more frequent and more specific. When you consistently dismiss or ignore these communications, they may become less frequent, not because your soul has given up on you, but because it is waiting for you to become ready to receive what it wants to give you. Let me give you some examples of common patterns and their deeper meanings, but remember, these are starting points for your own inner listening, not absolute rules. Your soul speaks to you in a completely unique language that reflects your individual path, personality, and spiritual needs. The number 1111 often appears when your soul is preparing you for a spiritual awakening or a major life transition. It is like a wake-up call from your higher self saying, "Pay attention. Something significant is about to shift in your life. You are being prepared for a new level of consciousness or a new chapter in your spiritual journey." Many people first begin noticing spiritual signs when 1111 starts appearing frequently in their experience. The number 333 frequently comes when you are being called to express your creative or communicative gifts more fully. Your soul may be reminding you that you have something important to share with the world, whether through art, writing, teaching, or simply being more authentic in your daily interactions. This number often appears when you have been hiding your light or playing small when life is calling you to shine more brightly. The number 555 is often associated with major life changes and the need for freedom and adventure. When this number appears repeatedly, your soul may be preparing you for a significant shift, a move, a career change, the end of a relationship that has run its course, or the beginning of something entirely new. It is your soul's way of saying, "Trust the changes that are coming. They are leading you toward greater alignment with your true purpose." Repeated animal sightings often carry messages about the qualities those animals represent that you need to develop or recognize within yourself. A hawk appearing frequently might be calling you to see your life from a higher perspective, to soar above the details and problems that keep you trapped in limited thinking. A butterfly showing up repeatedly could be your soul telling you that a beautiful transformation is ready to unfold in your experience, even if your current circumstances feel difficult or uncertain. But here is what is even more profound: your soul can speak to you through absolutely any object or pattern. I have had students receive guidance through repeated encounters with red cars, through the same cloud formation appearing day after day, even through finding coins in unusual places. The key is not what the object is, but the quality of attention and receptivity you bring to noticing it. One woman came to me because she kept finding feathers in the most unlikely places inside her house, on her car windshield, even once inside her purse. She could not understand how these feathers were appearing in places where no birds could possibly have been. When we explored this together, she realized that feathers had been appearing at moments when she was doubting her ability to trust her intuition. Her soul was using these feathers as gentle reminders that she had wings, that she could trust her inner knowing to lift her above any challenge. Another student kept noticing the time 2:22 on clocks, but only during periods when he was feeling lonely or disconnected from others. Through our work together, he understood that his soul was reminding him that he was never alone, that he was always connected to the infinite source of love, and that this connection was more real and lasting than any human relationship. The 222 became his reminder to pause and feel that divine connection whenever loneliness arose. This brings us to something even more important than understanding the meanings: how to activate this communication consciously and create the inner conditions that allow you to receive your soul's guidance clearly and consistently throughout your life. The difference between ego-seeking signs and soul-receiving guidance is like the difference between demanding and allowing. When your ego seeks signs, there is a desperate, grasping quality to your attention. You become obsessed with finding patterns, and you may even start creating meanings where none exist. You might find yourself looking at the clock constantly, hoping to see repeating numbers, or driving around looking for license plates with special meanings. This kind of seeking actually blocks genuine soul communication because it creates too much mental noise and emotional urgency. Your soul speaks in whispers, not shouts. It communicates through gentle nudges, not dramatic signs. When you are desperately seeking guidance, you create the same kind of internal static that would make it impossible to hear a quiet radio station clearly. But when your soul receives guidance, there is a quality of openness and trust. The signs appear naturally in your awareness without force or strain. You are not looking for them, but when they appear, you recognize them immediately. There is a feeling of rightness, of synchronicity, of being in the flow of something larger than your individual will. To create the inner stillness necessary for clear reception, you must first understand that this divine communication happens not through the thinking mind, but through what I call the feeling intuition. Your mind wants to analyze and categorize every experience, to fit it into known patterns and logical explanations. But your soul speaks in the language of direct knowing that bypasses mental analysis entirely. This is why meditation is so essential for opening this divine channel. When you sit quietly each day and turn your attention inward, away from the constant stimulation of thoughts and external impressions, you create space for the subtle voice of your soul to be heard. In the silence between thoughts, in the stillness between breaths, your higher self can whisper its guidance directly into your consciousness. But meditation is not just about sitting in formal practice. It is about cultivating a quality of inner listening that you can access throughout your day. The same stillness you develop in sitting meditation can be brought to the moment when you notice a repeated sign, allowing you to receive its message clearly rather than immediately trying to figure out what it means. You do not need to wait for meditation time to access this guidance. Throughout your day, you can create what I call sacred pauses, moments when you step out of automatic, unconscious living and into aware, receptive presence. When you notice a repeated sign, instead of immediately trying to figure out what it means, pause and breathe deeply. Feel your feet on the ground. Soften your gaze. Ask your heart, not your mind, what message this moment is carrying for you. Some people are more naturally attuned to these messages than others, and there are specific reasons for this. Those who have been meditating or practicing any form of inner development for years have naturally sensitized their awareness to subtle spiritual communications. People who have gone through major life transitions, loss, illness, spiritual seeking often become more open to guidance because their usual ways of controlling life have been challenged. Creative people, artists, writers, musicians often receive soul guidance more easily because they are already comfortable with non-linear, intuitive ways of knowing. Children are naturally receptive to these communications because they have not yet learned to dismiss experiences that do not fit into logical categories. But anyone can develop this ability, regardless of their background or spiritual experience. The key is cultivating what I call innocent attention, the ability to notice what appears in your experience without immediately judging it as important or unimportant, meaningful or meaningless. Children are naturally good at this kind of attention. They can become completely absorbed in watching an ant walk across the sidewalk because they have not yet learned to dismiss simple experiences as insignificant. Your soul communication works the same way. When you bring childlike wonder and openness to the patterns appearing in your life, you create the perfect inner environment for receiving divine guidance. The moment you start trying too hard to understand or control the process, you move back into mental activity and lose the delicate receptivity that allows soul guidance to flow. This innocent attention is not passive or unconscious. It is actually a very refined and skillful state of awareness that requires practice to develop. It means being fully present to what is happening without immediately needing to understand, categorize, or use what you are experiencing. It means trusting that your soul's intelligence is far greater than your mental understanding and allowing guidance to emerge in its own perfect timing. The final piece of this sacred puzzle is learning how to live this wisdom daily, integrating what you understand into practical spiritual practices that will deepen your connection to your soul's voice and transform these occasional glimpses into a constant, reliable inner guidance system. Let me share with you 3 simple but powerful practices that will help you develop this divine communication into a living conversation with your higher self. These practices have been tested by thousands of students over many years, and they work for anyone who applies them with sincerity and consistency. I call the first practice the sacred pause technique, and you can use it immediately whenever you notice a repetitive sign appearing in your experience. This practice transforms an ordinary moment of recognition into a sacred moment of reception, opening your heart to receive whatever guidance your soul wants to offer you. When you see that familiar number, object, or pattern, do not rush to interpret it. Instead, stop whatever you are doing and take 3 slow, deep breaths. As you breathe, feel your body relaxing and your mind becoming quiet. Let go of any agenda or need to understand. Simply be present with the sign that has appeared, the way you might be present with a dear friend who has come to visit you. Now, instead of asking, "What does this mean?" ask a different question. Ask, "How is my soul trying to love me right now?" This simple shift from intellectual analysis to heart-centered receptivity opens you to receive guidance in ways your thinking mind cannot access. Your soul always communicates from love, even when the guidance involves difficult changes or challenging truths. After asking this question, pay attention to the first feeling, image, or gentle knowing that arises in your awareness. Do not judge whether it makes logical sense. Your soul does not communicate through logic, it communicates through direct inner knowing that often transcends rational understanding. Trust what comes, even if it seems simple or unexpected. Often, the most profound guidance comes in the most humble forms. Sometimes the guidance will be very practical, a reminder to call a friend, to take better care of your health, to pay attention to an opportunity you have been overlooking. Sometimes it will be emotional, a reminder that you are loved, that you are not alone, that you are stronger than you know. Sometimes it will be spiritual, an invitation to deepen your meditation practice, to release old resentments, or to trust more fully in the divine plan for your life. The key is to receive whatever comes without demanding that it be dramatic or life-changing. Your soul often speaks in very simple, gentle ways. A repeated sign might simply be your higher self's way of saying, "I am here, I see you, you are on the right path." This kind of loving reassurance is actually one of the most common forms of soul communication, but we often miss it because we are looking for something more complicated or mysterious. The second practice I call the soul memory journal. Each evening before sleep, write down any repeated signs you notice during the day. But instead of trying to figure out their meanings, simply record them with gratitude, like love letters from your higher self. Over time, you will begin to see larger patterns emerging that reveal your soul's longer-term guidance for your spiritual development and life direction. Write not just what you saw, but how you felt when you saw it, what you were thinking about at the time, and what was happening in your life during that period. This creates a rich record that allows you to see connections and patterns that might not be obvious in the moment. Ask yourself these questions as you write. What was I thinking or feeling when this sign appeared? What area of my life is asking for attention right now? How can I align more fully with my soul's wisdom tomorrow? What old pattern or limitation is ready to be released? What new possibility is trying to emerge in my experience? These questions help you see connections between your inner state and the external signs that appear, developing your ability to recognize the intimate, personal ways your soul communicates with you specifically. Over weeks and months, you will begin to see themes and patterns that reveal your soul's deeper purpose and direction for this lifetime. One student told me that after keeping this journal for 6 months, she could see that certain signs always appeared when she was about to make an important decision, as if her soul was preparing her for moments of choice. Another student noticed that particular numbers showed up whenever he was being too serious and needed to bring more playfulness into his life. The journal becomes a sacred text of your soul's unique language and guidance style. The third practice is what I call daily attunement meditation. Each morning, spend just 5 minutes sitting quietly and setting an intention to be receptive to your soul's guidance throughout the day. Ask your higher self to speak to you through whatever forms and patterns will serve your highest good. Then, release any need to control how this guidance appears, trusting that your soul knows exactly what you need and when you need it. Begin by sitting comfortably and closing your eyes. Take several deep breaths and feel yourself settling into stillness. Place your hand on your heart and silently say, "My beloved soul, I open my awareness to receive your guidance today. Speak to me through whatever signs and patterns will help me grow in love and wisdom. I trust your perfect timing and your infinite love for me." Then simply sit in receptive silence for a few minutes, not trying to make anything happen, but creating space for communion with your higher self. You may feel a sense of peace, love, or expansion. You may receive specific guidance about the day ahead, or you may simply feel a quiet sense of connection. All of these experiences are perfect. In the evening, spend another few minutes in grateful recognition of any guidance you received, even if you did not fully understand it at the time. Thank your soul for its constant care and communication. This practice of morning intention and evening gratitude creates a complete circuit of communication that strengthens your connection to your soul's voice and makes you increasingly sensitive to its gentle guidance. Throughout your busy days, you can maintain this connection by practicing what I call conscious noticing. Several times each day, pause and look around you with fresh eyes, as if you are seeing your environment for the first time. Ask yourself, what is trying to catch my attention right now? What beauty or message am I walking past without noticing? What is my soul trying to show me in this moment? This simple practice keeps your awareness open and receptive, preventing you from falling into unconscious, automatic living that misses the subtle ways your soul is constantly trying to communicate with you. It only takes a moment, but it maintains the quality of innocent attention that makes soul communication possible. You might pause while walking to work and notice how the morning light is falling on the buildings around you. You might look up from your computer and see a bird outside your window that seems to be looking directly at you. You might notice that the music playing in the store where you are shopping has lyrics that speak directly to something you have been struggling with. These moments of conscious noticing open you to receive guidance through any channel your soul chooses to use. But let me share with you one more story that will show you the profound transformation that becomes possible when you fully embrace this way of living in conscious partnership with your soul's guidance. This is a very personal story that I have shared with only a few close disciples, but I feel moved to share it with you today because it may be exactly what you need to hear to trust the guidance that is already flowing toward you. Many years after I had been teaching and guiding others, after I had written books and established centers and helped thousands of souls along their spiritual paths, I went through a period of deep spiritual crisis. Despite all my knowledge and experience, I found myself questioning everything I believed about the spiritual path. I felt disconnected from the divine presence that had been my constant companion, and I began to wonder if I had been deceiving myself and others about the reality of God's love and guidance. This was not a philosophical doubt, but a crisis of the heart. I could still teach and speak about spiritual truth, but I could no longer feel it as a living reality in my own experience. I felt like a fraud, offering to others something I was no longer sure I possessed myself. The joy and certainty that had sustained me for decades seemed to have vanished, leaving me in a desert of spiritual dryness and confusion. During this dark night of my soul, I noticed that every morning when I opened my bedroom window, the same small brown bird would be sitting on the branch directly outside, looking straight at me. At first, I paid little attention. Birds sit on branches, this seemed like the most natural thing in the world. But day after day, week after week, this bird appeared at exactly the same time, in exactly the same place, with the same direct gaze. What made this unusual was that I had been opening that same window every morning for 3 years, and I had never seen any birds sitting on that particular branch before. Also, this bird did not fly away when I appeared at the window, as most birds would. It would sit there looking at me for several minutes, as if it had something important to communicate, before flying away. After 2 weeks of this daily encounter, I began to wonder if this might be more than coincidence, but my mind immediately dismissed the idea. I told myself I was being foolish, looking for meaning where none existed because I was desperate to feel some connection to the divine again. I was afraid to trust what seemed like guidance because I was no longer sure I could distinguish between genuine spiritual communication and wishful thinking born of desperation. But one morning, instead of ignoring this faithful little visitor, I decided to really look at it. I sat quietly and opened my heart to whatever message this creature might be carrying. As I gazed into its bright, fearless eyes, I suddenly felt a wave of unconditional love wash through me. In that moment, I understood that this small bird had been sent as a daily reminder that I was never alone, never forgotten, never abandoned by the divine love that had called me to this path. The bird was showing me that just as it trusted completely in the intelligence of life to provide everything it needed, food, shelter, safety, I could trust that same infinite intelligence to guide me through my spiritual crisis and back to the certainty of God's presence. That little bird became my guru, teaching me through its simple, unwavering faith that divine love is always present, always caring for us, even when our human minds cannot understand or feel it. From that day forward, every time doubt or fear would arise in my consciousness, I would remember my small brown teacher and feel again that wave of unconditional love. The bird appeared every morning for 6 months, until the day I no longer needed its reminder because I had internalized its message completely. On that day, it simply did not come, and I knew that its mission was complete. This experience taught me that the divine intelligence behind seeming randomness is always personal, always loving, always perfectly attuned to exactly what we need for our spiritual growth. Your repeated signs are not random events in an unconscious universe. They are love letters from the infinite intelligence that knows you more intimately than you know yourself. But there was something even more profound that I learned from that little brown bird. During those 6 months of daily visits, I began to understand that my spiritual crisis had been necessary for my deeper growth. I had become too confident in my own understanding, too sure of my spiritual attainments, The crisis stripped away my spiritual pride and returned me to the humility and wonder that are essential for true spiritual growth. The bird was not just comforting me through a difficult period, it was teaching me that every experience, even the most painful and confusing ones, can become a doorway to deeper communion with the divine. My period of doubt and disconnection had actually been preparing me to help others who would face similar crises in their own spiritual journeys. I realized that I could not truly guide others through the dark nights of their souls until I had learned to trust divine love even when I could not feel it, even when all my previous certainties had been stripped away. The bird had been my constant reminder that faith is not the absence of doubt, but the willingness to keep opening your heart to love even when doubt is present. Now that you have felt the power of these stories in your heart, let me share with you the deeper spiritual science that explains how this divine communication system actually works. Because understanding the mechanics will strengthen your faith and help you recognize these sacred messages more clearly. Everything in the universe is consciousness expressing itself through infinite forms and patterns. What we call matter, your body, the trees, the numbers on your clock, the objects around you, all of this is actually consciousness that has temporarily taken on form in order to experience itself from countless different perspectives. You are not separate from this universal consciousness, you are this consciousness, individualized and focused through the lens of your human experience. This understanding changes everything about how you relate to the world around you. Instead of seeing yourself as a separate being, moving through an unconscious universe, you begin to recognize that you are universal consciousness exploring itself through the particular perspective of your individual life. The same awareness that looks out through your eyes also looks out through the eyes of every person, every animal, every form of life. When your soul wants to communicate with your human awareness, it does so by orchestrating the consciousness that appears as your external world. The same infinite intelligence that beats your heart and grows the flowers can arrange for you to see the same number, sequence, or encounter the same object, exactly when your soul has something important to tell you. This is not magic or coincidence. It is the natural functioning of consciousness, recognizing itself through all the forms of its own creation. Your attention is like a magnet that draws toward you exactly the experiences and signs that match your soul's current needs and next steps in spiritual development. Think of it this way. In your dreams at night, your subconscious mind creates entire worlds, complete with people, places, and events that seem completely real while you are experiencing them. Your dreaming mind can orchestrate complex scenarios that deliver precise messages about your psychological and spiritual state. If your individual mind can create such elaborate communications through dreams, imagine what universal consciousness can create through the world of waking experience. But here is the beautiful mystery: you are not passive in this process. Your level of awareness, your openness to guidance, your willingness to trust in something greater than your thinking mind, all influence how clearly and frequently your soul can communicate with you. The more you practice receptive attention, the more sensitized you become to these subtle spiritual communications. It is like tuning a radio to receive a particular station. The radio waves are always present in the atmosphere, but you can only hear them clearly when your radio is properly tuned and the volume is adjusted correctly. Your soul's guidance is always broadcasting toward you, but you can only receive it clearly when your awareness is properly attuned and you have turned down the volume of mental noise and emotional static. This is why developing a regular meditation practice is so important for anyone who wants to live in conscious partnership with their soul's guidance. Meditation does not just calm your mind, it attunes your entire being to the subtle frequencies through which divine communication flows. In deep meditation, the boundaries between inner and outer, between self and universe, begin to dissolve, and you experience directly your unity with the intelligence that orchestrates all of life. When you carry this meditative awareness into your daily activities, ordinary moments become opportunities for divine communion. A repeated number becomes a sacred text. A bird outside your window becomes a messenger from the infinite. A flower blooming in your garden becomes a love letter from the source of all beauty. This is not fantasy or imagination. This is the natural way consciousness communicates with itself when the veils of separation have been thinned through spiritual practice. The key to maintaining this connection throughout your busy days is remembering that you are not trying to force anything to happen. You are simply staying open and available to the guidance that is always flowing toward you. Like a radio that must be tuned to the right frequency to receive clear signals, your awareness must be tuned to the frequency of love, trust, and receptive stillness to receive your soul's communications clearly. Some days, the messages will be unmistakably clear. Other days, you may notice nothing unusual at all. Both experiences are perfect. Your soul knows exactly when and how to reach you, and it will never give you more guidance than you are ready to receive and integrate. Trust the process completely, knowing that divine love is orchestrating every detail of your spiritual awakening with perfect wisdom and timing. But let me address a question that many sincere seekers have asked me over the years. How do you distinguish between genuine soul guidance and your own wishful thinking or projection? This is an important question because as you become more sensitive to signs and patterns, there is a risk of seeing meaning where none exists or of interpreting neutral events through the lens of your personal desires and fears. The key lies in understanding the qualities that characterize authentic soul communication. Genuine guidance from your higher self always carries certain unmistakable characteristics that distinguish it from mental fabrication or emotional projection. First, authentic soul guidance always feels loving and supportive, even when it is calling you to make difficult changes or face challenging truths. Your soul never communicates through fear, guilt, or judgment. It may guide you away from harmful situations or relationships, but it does so with compassion and wisdom, not with anxiety or condemnation. If a repeated sign seems to be creating fear or worry in your mind, pause and examine whether you might be interpreting a neutral event through your own fears and projections. Your soul wants you to feel safe, loved, and guided, not anxious or threatened. Second, genuine soul guidance usually calls you toward greater love, compassion, authenticity, and service. It encourages you to be more of who you truly are, not less. It invites you to expand beyond your limitations, to trust more deeply, to love more freely. If a sign seems to be encouraging you to withdraw from life, to judge others, or to act from selfishness or fear, it is probably not authentic soul guidance. Third, authentic soul communication often has a quality of timelessness and peace associated with it. When you receive genuine guidance, even if it involves making major life changes, there is usually a sense of rightness and inevitability, as if some part of you has always known this truth. There may be excitement or even nervousness about following the guidance, but underneath there is a deep peace and sense of coming home to yourself. Fourth, genuine soul guidance is always ultimately practical and helpful for your spiritual growth and life purpose. It may not make logical sense to your thinking mind, and it may require you to step outside your comfort zone, but it always leads you toward greater wholeness, happiness, and service to others. Finally, authentic soul communication usually becomes clearer and more helpful over time as you follow it. When you act on genuine guidance from your higher self, the path ahead becomes more illuminated, not more confusing. Doors open, synchronicities increase, and you feel more aligned with your true purpose and joy. Now let me share with you some advanced practices that will help you develop even deeper sensitivity to your soul's communication and integrate this guidance into every aspect of your daily life. These practices are for those who are ready to make soul guidance a central organizing principle of how they live, rather than just an occasional spiritual experience. The first advanced practice I call walking meditation with soul dialogue. This involves taking regular walks, not for exercise or to get somewhere, but specifically to create space for conversation with your higher self. As you walk slowly and mindfully, pay attention to everything that draws your attention, the quality of light, the sounds around you, the objects or patterns that catch your eye. Instead of just noticing these things passively, begin an internal dialogue with your soul about what you are experiencing. You might silently ask, "What are you showing me through this beautiful cloud formation? What message is in the song of this bird? How is this encounter with another person a gift for my growth?" This practice develops your ability to see the entire world as your soul's textbook, full of lessons and guidance. The second advanced practice is called synchronicity amplification. This involves actively cooperating with the synchronicities and meaningful coincidences that appear in your life, rather than just noticing them. When you receive what feels like guidance through a repeated sign, take immediate action on that guidance, even if it is just a small step. For example, if you keep seeing a particular number that feels significant, research the spiritual meaning of that number, but more importantly, ask your soul how you are meant to apply that energy in your life right now. If you keep encountering information about a particular place, consider whether you are being called to visit that place or learn more about it. If the same book or teaching keeps coming to your attention, Make time to study it. The key is to treat these synchronicities as invitations to participate more consciously in your soul's unfolding plan for your life. Each time you act on guidance, you strengthen the communication channel and invite more guidance to flow toward you. The third advanced practice is what I call soul purpose meditation. Once each week, spend an extended period in meditation specifically focused on understanding and aligning with your soul's deeper purpose for this lifetime. Begin by asking your higher self to show you the gifts you came here to develop and share, the lessons you came here to learn, and the service you came here to offer. Pay attention not just to thoughts and ideas that arise, but to feelings, images, body sensations, and subtle knowings. Your soul purpose is not just a mental concept, it is a living energy that wants to express itself through every aspect of your life. The repeated signs you notice are often connected to this deeper purpose, calling you to step more fully into the life your soul came here to live. As you develop sensitivity to your soul's communication through these practices, you may find that the guidance becomes not just more frequent, but more sophisticated and multi-layered. You might begin to notice that different types of signs appear at different phases of your spiritual development, or that your soul uses increasingly subtle forms of communication as your awareness becomes more refined. Some advanced students report that they begin to receive guidance through their dreams that is directly connected to the signs they notice during waking hours. Others find that their soul begins to communicate through their creative expressions, writing, art, music in ways that surprise and delight them. Still others discover that their intuition about people and situations becomes remarkably accurate as they learn to trust their soul's perceptions. The ultimate goal of developing this communication with your soul is not to become dependent on external signs for every decision, but to develop such a strong connection with your higher self that guidance flows naturally and constantly through your intuition, your heart, and your direct inner knowing. The external signs are like training wheels that help you learn to recognize and trust your soul's voice, until that voice becomes a constant, reliable presence in your consciousness. My dear friend, today you have learned that those mysterious repetitions in your life are not coincidences, they are love letters from your own divine self. Your soul memory is awakening, calling you home to the magnificent truth of who you really are. Every number, every object, every pattern that catches your attention is consciousness itself, wearing the costume of form to remind you of your infinite nature. You now understand the three levels of soul communication: surface, soul, and cosmic, and how to discern which level is speaking to you in any moment. You know that repetition is your soul's preferred language because it creates spiritual resonance and trains your attention to focus on what matters most for your spiritual development. You have learned practical techniques for receiving this guidance clearly and integrating it into your daily life. Most importantly, you now know that you are never walking this path alone. The same infinite intelligence that moves the planets in their courses and causes the flowers to bloom in perfect timing is personally and intimately involved in every detail of your spiritual journey. Every sign, every repeated pattern, every moment of recognition is a reminder that you are held in love beyond your human comprehension. You have also learned to distinguish between authentic soul guidance and wishful thinking, understanding that genuine communication from your higher self always carries the qualities of love, wisdom, practicality, and peace. You know that as you practice these techniques with sincerity and consistency, your sensitivity to your soul's voice will continue to grow and deepen. The practices I have shared with you, the sacred pause technique, the soul memory journal, daily attunement meditation, and the advanced practices for those ready to go deeper, these are proven methods that have helped thousands of sincere seekers develop reliable communication with their higher self. But remember, these are just tools to help you access what is already within you. Your soul's wisdom, your connection to divine guidance, your ability to live in harmony with cosmic intelligence, all of this is your natural birthright. When next you see that familiar sign, pause and remember, my soul speaks to me through all of life. I am never alone, never lost, never forgotten. In every moment, the divine within me is guiding me home to myself. This is not belief, my friend, this is truth remembering itself through you. The path ahead is illuminated by these sacred signs, each one a stepping stone back to the full remembrance of your divine nature. You have everything within you that you need to read this celestial language and live in constant communion with your higher self. Trust what you have learned. Practice with consistency and love. And most of all, remember that your spiritual awakening is a gift not just to you, but to all of consciousness, For when one soul remembers its true nature, the entire universe is blessed. As you go forward from this moment, carry with you the deep knowing that you are supported, guided, and loved beyond measure. Every challenge you face is an opportunity for growth. Every joy you experience is a celebration of your divine nature. Every sign you notice is a reminder of the constant conversation happening between your human self and your eternal soul. Trust this process completely. Some days the guidance will be crystal clear. Other days it may seem absent altogether. Both experiences are perfect parts of your spiritual journey. Your soul knows exactly what you need and when you need it. Your job is simply to stay open, stay grateful, and stay willing to receive the love and wisdom that are always flowing toward you. Remember that developing this communication with your soul is not about becoming special or different from others. It is about remembering what you have always been, a divine being having a human experience, temporarily forgetting your true nature so that you can have the joy of remembering it again. Every person you meet is on this same journey of remembering, even if they are not conscious of it yet. As you become more sensitive to your soul's guidance, you may find that you naturally become a beacon of this awareness for others. People may be drawn to your peace, your clarity, your sense of being guided and supported. This is your soul beginning to fulfill its purpose of serving the awakening of consciousness in all beings. If this teaching has awakened something beautiful in your heart, I invite you to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom that can transform your daily life into a living prayer. Give this video a like if it resonated with your soul's knowing. And please, share in the comments what repeated signs you have been noticing. Your sharing may be exactly what another soul needs to hear. Together, we are all remembering who we truly are. Until we meet again in the consciousness that unites us all, may you walk in the light of your own divine self. May you trust the signs that appear on your path. May you live always in the awareness that you are loved, guided, and held by the infinite intelligence that is your true self. Om, peace, amen. For years, I hesitated to teach about karmic echoes and name appearances because people would call it superstition or wishful thinking. But I have witnessed too many miraculous reunions, healings, and spiritual awakenings that began with someone noticing a name repeatedly. The soul speaks to us constantly through signs and synchronicities, and repeated names are among the most powerful messages we can receive. Today, I share this sacred knowledge that can transform your understanding of every important relationship in your life. My dear friend, by understanding why you keep seeing their name, you will unlock profound insights into your soul's deepest connections, unfinished karmic lessons, and the spiritual purpose behind your most significant relationships across lifetimes. Through decades of divine communion and reading the Akashic records of countless souls, I have learned to recognize the karmic patterns that create name echoes and the spiritual purposes they serve in our evolution. If you have been confused and obsessed about why someone's name keeps appearing everywhere, if you're wondering if you're imagining connections or going crazy with coincidences, if you feel haunted by someone from your past who you cannot forget or release, if you're struggling to understand the deeper meaning behind intense or difficult relationships, if you're questioning whether certain people are meant to be in your life or if you should let go, if you feel pulled toward reconnecting with someone but don't understand why, or if you experience unexplained emotional reactions when seeing or thinking about certain people, this teaching will transform your confusion into clarity. These name appearances are not signs that you should immediately contact this person, not evidence that they're the one, not random coincidences your mind is making meaningful, and not always romantic in nature. Unlike psychology that explains synchronicities as pattern recognition or New Age thinking that makes everything about twin flames, I will show you the ancient spiritual science of how souls communicate across time and space through karmic echoes. You will transform confusion into clarity, obsession into understanding, and painful wondering into profound spiritual insight about your soul's eternal journey with other souls. Let me share 5 extraordinary stories that will reveal the different types of karmic echoes and what they mean for your soul's journey, beginning with one of the most profound healing transformations I have ever witnessed. There came to me a successful businesswoman named Maya who was living in constant terror because she kept seeing her deceased father's name everywhere. This woman had built a thriving company, was respected in her community, and appeared to have overcome a childhood filled with abuse and trauma. Yet 6 months after her father's death, his name began appearing to her in the strangest ways. She would see his name on billboards while driving to work. Strangers would introduce themselves with his name at business meetings. Books would fall open to pages where his name appeared in the text. She would receive wrong number phone calls from people asking for someone with his name. Most disturbing of all, she would wake up in the middle of the night and see his name written in the condensation on her bedroom window. Maya came to me convinced that her father was haunting her from beyond the grave. She had spent her adult life healing from the physical and emotional abuse he had inflicted during her childhood. She had undergone years of therapy, built a life of success and independence, and thought she had finally freed herself from his influence. Now, seeing his name constantly, she feared that even death could not separate her from his toxic presence. "Master," she said to me, weeping, "I worked so hard to escape from him in life. Is he now torturing me from the spirit world? Will I never be free of this man who caused me so much pain? I'm afraid to leave my house, afraid to open my eyes, because everywhere I look, I see his name mocking me." But when I looked into her soul's records with spiritual sight, I saw a completely different story. Her father's soul, freed from the limitations and mental disturbances of his earthly personality, was trying desperately to communicate with her. He had awakened in the spirit realm to the terrible pain he had caused his daughter, and his soul was asking for her forgiveness. More than that, he wanted to become her healing teacher, helping her transform her trauma into wisdom that could serve other abuse survivors. The name appearances were not harassment, but the desperate attempts of a soul seeking to make amends for the harm he had caused while trapped in human ignorance and pain. Each time Maya saw his name, it was his soul saying, "Please forgive me. Please let me help heal what I broke. Please let me serve your highest good now that I understand love." When I explained this to Maya, she was initially resistant. The wounds from her childhood were still tender, and the idea that her abuser could become her teacher seemed impossible to accept. But I encouraged her to enter meditation and ask her own soul what it needed from this connection. During that meditation, something extraordinary happened. Maya experienced a vision where she saw her father's soul, not as the angry, violent man she remembered, but as a being of light filled with remorse and love. He showed her that their souls had chosen to incarnate together so that both could learn about unconditional love. He by learning what happens when love is absent, and she by learning to find love even in the presence of pain. From that day forward, Maya's relationship with her father's memory began to transform. Instead of seeing his name appearances as threats, she began to see them as opportunities to practice forgiveness and send healing energy to his soul. She started a support group for adult survivors of childhood abuse, and her father's spirit became her guide in this healing work. The most remarkable part of this story is what happened to Maya's own healing. As she transformed her relationship with her father from victim abuser to soul growth partners, her own traumatic memories began to heal in ways that years of therapy had not achieved. The terror and rage that had controlled her life for decades dissolved into compassion and wisdom. She became one of the most powerful healing teachers I have ever known, helping thousands of people transform their own experiences of abuse into spiritual strength. This reveals the first type of karmic echo, the healing completion, where souls who have caused each other pain in past incarnations return to heal those wounds and transform them into wisdom and service. But karmic echoes are not always about healing past wounds. Sometimes they appear when souls are being called together to serve a great spiritual purpose in the world. Let me tell you about two artists whose story shows the power of destined service partnerships. A painter named David in New York began seeing the name Elena Rossetti everywhere in his daily life. He would see this exact name on street signs, in newspaper articles, on business cards dropped on the sidewalk, even spelled out in clouds when he looked up at the sky. This continued for 3 months, during which David painted some of the most inspired artwork of his career, though he had no idea why his creativity had suddenly intensified. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, a sculptor named Elena Rossetti was experiencing the same phenomenon with David's name. She would see David written in coffee foam, hear strangers calling that name on the street, find books about famous Davids appearing in her path. Like David, her artistic work was becoming more powerful and spiritually inspired than ever before. Both artists were puzzled by these synchronicities, but felt compelled to create art about their experiences. David painted a series called Letters to Elena, portraits of women he had never met but somehow knew intimately. Elena sculpted a series called Conversations with David, male figures that seemed to embody conversations she felt she was having with an invisible companion. The breakthrough came when both artists decided to search online for the name they kept seeing. They discovered each other's work and were astounded to find that their art, created independently on opposite coasts, told the same story from different perspectives. David's paintings and Elena's sculptures fit together like pieces of a puzzle, creating a complete artistic narrative about the soul's journey through love, loss, and spiritual awakening. When they finally met in person, they both experienced instant recognition, not romantic attraction, but the deep soul recognition of longtime creative collaborators. Through meditation and past life exploration, they discovered that they had worked together as artists in Renaissance Italy, where they had created sacred art that helped thousands of people connect with divine beauty. Their souls had been calling to each other across the continent because it was time to resume their spiritual work together. The name echoes were their soul's way of preparing their conscious minds for this destined reunion. Together, they now create art installations that combine painting and sculpture in ways that open people's hearts and awaken their spiritual awareness. Their work has been displayed in galleries worldwide and has helped countless people remember their own divine nature through the power of sacred beauty. This shows us the echo of destined service partnerships, where souls recognize each other across any distance because they have important spiritual work to accomplish together in service to humanity's awakening. But perhaps the most beautiful and misunderstood karmic echoes are those involving love relationships that transcend the limitations of romantic form. Let me share with you the story of a monk whose experience reveals how love echoes can transform possessive attachment into divine love. Brother Thomas had been a Franciscan monk for 12 years, living in complete celibacy and devotion to his spiritual practice. He had entered the monastery after a painful breakup with his fiancée, Maria, and had found peace in his life of prayer and service. But in his 13th year of monastic life, he began seeing Maria's name everywhere, and it threw his spiritual life into complete turmoil. Her name would appear in the religious texts he was reading. Other monks would mention knowing people named Maria in their conversations. He would receive mail addressed to Maria at the monastery. Most disturbing to him, during his deepest meditative states, when he felt closest to God, the name Maria would appear in his consciousness like a prayer. Brother Thomas was tormented by these experiences. He thought they meant he lacked true spiritual renunciation, that his old romantic feelings were returning to tempt him away from his religious calling. He confessed to his spiritual director, underwent additional penances, and tried even more rigorous spiritual disciplines to purify himself of what he believed were impure thoughts and desires. But the name appearances only intensified, especially during his holiest moments of prayer and communion with divine love. Finally, in desperation, he came to me for guidance, convinced that he was failing as a monk and might need to leave his religious vocation. When I looked into his soul's records, I saw the truth that changed everything. Thomas and Maria's souls had been connected across many lifetimes, learning different aspects of love in each incarnation. In some lives, they had been romantic partners, in others, parent and child, in still others, teacher and student. Their current incarnation was designed to teach them both the highest form of love, unconditional divine love that transcends all possessive attachment. The name echoes were not temptations drawing Thomas away from God, but divine communications showing him that his love for Maria was actually expanding into universal love for all souls. She was appearing in his consciousness during his deepest spiritual states, because his soul was recognizing that true divine love includes and transcends personal love. I encouraged Thomas to pray for guidance about how to understand this connection without leaving his religious calling. During a profound meditation, he received clear inner guidance that his love for Maria had become a doorway to experiencing God's love for all creation. He was meant to transform personal attachment into cosmic compassion. Thomas wrote to Maria, sharing his spiritual realization and asking for her prayers and support in his spiritual work. To his amazement, she wrote back telling him that she too had been experiencing spiritual synchronicities and felt called to support his religious mission through her prayers and service in the world. Their relationship transformed into something neither had imagined possible, a spiritual partnership that supported both their highest paths without any romantic involvement. Maria became one of the monastery's most generous benefactors in organized community service projects that extended the monk's spiritual work into practical healing for society's needs. Brother Thomas became one of the most beloved spiritual teachers in his order, helping many people understand that true love evolves beyond possession to become a force for universal healing and service. His love for Maria had become a transparent window through which divine love could pour into the world. Here we see love echoes that transcend romantic form, showing us that the deepest soul connections evolve across lifetimes to become vehicles for expressing divine love rather than personal attachment. Sometimes karmic echoes appear not to reconnect us with others, but to release us from guilt and self-blame that we have carried from past experiences. Let me tell you about a woman whose story reveals how echoes can liberate us from karmic debt and emotional suffering. Sarah had lost her 7-year-old son Michael in a car accident 5 years earlier. Despite years of grief, counseling, and spiritual support, she was haunted by guilt and self-blame. She believed that if she had been a better mother, more careful, more protective, somehow she could have prevented his death. This guilt was destroying her ability to find peace or meaning in life. 6 months before she came to see me, Sarah began seeing Michael's name everywhere. She would see Michael on license plates while driving to work. Strangers would mention their children named Michael in casual conversations. She would receive advertisements addressed to Michael at her home. Books would fall open to pages mentioning Street Bass, Michael, or other famous Michaels. Rather than bringing her comfort, these name appearances were intensifying her pain. Each time she saw his name, she would be overwhelmed with fresh waves of grief and guilt. She became convinced that Michael's spirit was trying to tell her that her negligence had caused his death, that he was trapped in the spirit world because of her failures as a mother. When I looked into the soul records of Sarah and her son, I saw a beautiful truth that brought tears to my eyes. Before incarnating together, Sarah's soul and Michael's soul had made a sacred agreement. Michael's soul, which was highly evolved, had chosen to incarnate for only a brief time to teach Sarah about unconditional love and to help her develop the spiritual gifts that would enable her to help other parents heal from similar losses. The name echoes were not accusations from Michael's spirit, but loving communication saying, "Thank you, Mom, for giving me the perfect life I needed. Thank you for loving me so completely in our short time together. Now please use what our love taught you to help other families who are walking this path of loss and healing." When I shared this understanding with Sarah, she experienced a profound spiritual opening. She realized that her son's death, while tragic from a human perspective, had fulfilled a beautiful soul agreement between them. Her guilt transformed into gratitude for the perfect love they had shared, and her grief became fuel for compassionate service to others. Sarah started a support group for parents who had lost children, and Michael's spirit became her guide and co-teacher in this healing work. The name echoes continued, but now they filled her with joy and strength, reminding her that love never dies and that even the shortest physical relationships can fulfill eternal spiritual purposes. Today, Sarah helps hundreds of parents each year heal from child loss, and many report feeling the presence of their own children's spirits during her group sessions. Her transformation from victim of tragedy to healing angel shows how karmic debt release echoes can free us from guilt and transform our deepest pain into our greatest service. This reveals how echoes can release karmic guilt and help us understand that some souls incarnate briefly to teach us profound lessons about love that serve our spiritual mission for the rest of our lives. Sometimes the name we keep seeing is our own, reflected back to us through encounters with others who share our name. This type of echo is the universe calling us to deeper self-awareness and spiritual self-discovery. Let me tell you about a spiritual seeker whose mirror soul echo led him to the most important realization of his life. James was a dedicated spiritual student who had been seeking enlightenment for 20 years through various practices and teachers. Despite his sincere efforts, he felt stuck in his spiritual development, always looking outside himself for the next teacher, technique, or experience that would finally give him the breakthrough he sought. For 6 months, James began noticing an unusual pattern. Everywhere he went, he was meeting other people named James. His waiter would be named James. The person sitting next to him on the bus would be James. He would attend spiritual gatherings where half the men present seemed to be named James. Even his meditation teacher mentioned having several other students named James. At first, James thought this was merely an amusing coincidence. But as the pattern continued and intensified, he began to feel that the universe was trying to tell him something. Each encounter with another James felt significant, as if these meetings contained important messages he was supposed to understand. The breakthrough came when James met an elderly man also named James at a bookstore. This older James was browsing spiritual books, and they struck up a conversation about their shared spiritual interests. During their talk, the older man said something that stopped James in his tracks. "You know, I spent 40 years seeking enlightenment from teachers all over the world before I realized that the greatest teacher was always the one looking back at me in the mirror." This simple statement hit James like lightning. He realized that all these encounters with other people named James were his soul's way of saying, "Pay attention to James, not other James, but you, James. The teacher you seek, the wisdom you want, the enlightenment you're looking for, it's all already within James." James understood that his spiritual seeking had become a way of avoiding the deep inner work of self-realization. He had been looking everywhere except the one place where his true spiritual nature could be found, within his own consciousness. The mirror soul echoes were calling him home to himself. From that day forward, James transformed his spiritual practice from external seeking to internal communion. Instead of constantly looking for new teachers and techniques, he devoted himself to meditation, self-inquiry, and developing a direct relationship with the divine presence within his own heart. The change was remarkable. Within months, James experienced the inner peace and spiritual connection that had eluded him for decades of external searching. He realized that he had always been the enlightened being he was seeking. He had just been looking in the wrong direction. James now teaches meditation and self-inquiry, helping other spiritual seekers discover that the guru they seek is their own higher self. The love they want is already in their hearts, and the peace they desire is their natural state when they stop looking outside themselves for what can only be found within. The teaching that the most important relationship is with your own soul applies to all of us. Sometimes the universe uses name echoes to redirect our attention from external relationships and circumstances to the internal spiritual work that is our primary purpose in this incarnation. Now you're ready to understand the complete spiritual science behind these mysterious and beautiful phenomena that connect our souls across time, space, and dimensions. Karmic echoes occur because the soul has the ability to communicate across time, space, and dimensions in ways that the physical mind cannot fully comprehend. Your soul exists in a realm where past, present, and future are all accessible simultaneously, where physical distance has no meaning, and where the connections between souls create an invisible network of love and purpose that spans all of creation. When you have shared significant experiences with another soul across multiple lifetimes, whether as family members, romantic partners, friends, teachers, students, or even adversaries, an energetic resonance is created between your souls. This resonance acts like a spiritual tuning fork, causing your souls to recognize each other regardless of physical form, geographical location, or current life circumstances. Unfinished karmic patterns create particularly strong energetic resonance between souls. When souls have unresolved love, unexpressed forgiveness, incomplete service, or unlearned lessons between them, their connection remains active across lifetimes until the spiritual purpose of their relationship is fulfilled. But we must understand the crucial difference between ego projection and genuine soul recognition. The ego often creates fantasies and projections about relationships based on romantic ideals, unmet needs, or unconscious desires. These ego-based attachments can cause us to imagine spiritual connections where none exist or to misinterpret genuine soul communications. True karmic echoes have certain characteristics that distinguish them from ego projections. They appear spontaneously without your conscious effort to create them. They continue consistently over time, rather than coming and going with your emotional states. They often intensify during periods of spiritual growth or life transitions. Most importantly, they always serve your spiritual evolution rather than feeding your ego's desires for drama, romance, or specialness. The timing of when echoes appear is never random, but always related to your spiritual readiness to understand and work with the connection. Your soul waits until your consciousness has developed enough wisdom, compassion, and spiritual strength to handle the intensity and responsibility of conscious karmic relationships. The subconscious mind plays a crucial role in recognizing familiar soul energy. Your subconscious contains the memories of all your soul's experiences across lifetimes, and it recognizes other souls you have known even when your conscious mind has no memory of them. This recognition triggers heightened awareness that causes you to notice name appearances that others might dismiss as coincidence. The universe uses names as the simplest form of soul communication because names carry the vibrational signature of the soul. When you see someone's name repeatedly, you are picking up on the energetic frequency of their soul calling to yours. This is why the name appearances often trigger emotional responses. Your soul is responding to the recognition of a familiar energy. There are 7 distinct types of karmic echoes, each serving a different purpose in your spiritual evolution. Understanding which type you are experiencing helps you respond appropriately to the soul communication you are receiving. Healing completion echoes appear when souls who have caused each other pain in past incarnations are ready to heal those wounds together. These echoes often involve people who have hurt you in this lifetime or whom you have hurt. The soul who caused pain seeks forgiveness and the opportunity to serve the healing of the one who was harmed. The soul who was harmed has the opportunity to practice forgiveness and transform their wound into wisdom that can help others heal from similar experiences. These echoes can be intense and sometimes frightening, especially if the past pain was severe. The soul who was harmed may initially resist the connection, fearing that more pain will result. But when approached with spiritual understanding, healing completion echoes offer profound liberation from carrying wounds across lifetimes. Service partnership echoes manifest when souls who are meant to collaborate in spiritual work are being called together. These souls have often worked together in past lifetimes as healers, teachers, artists, or spiritual guides. They incarnate in the same time period and are drawn together when their combined gifts are needed for serving humanity's spiritual awakening. Service partnership echoes feel different from romantic or family connections. There is a sense of shared mission, complementary abilities, and mutual recognition of each other's spiritual gifts. These partnerships can take many forms: business collaborations, artistic projects, healing practices, or teaching endeavors, but they always serve a purpose larger than the individuals involved. Love evolution echoes occur when souls who have experienced various forms of love relationship across lifetimes are being called to evolve their connection to a higher spiritual expression. These echoes often involve souls who have been romantic partners, family members, or close friends in past lives, but are now meant to experience unconditional love that transcends all personal attachment. These echoes can be confusing because they trigger deep love feelings, but may not be meant to manifest as conventional romantic relationships in the current lifetime. The souls involved are being called to transform possessive love into divine love, personal attachment into spiritual support, and exclusive bonds into inclusive compassion that serves all souls. Karmic debt release echoes appear when souls are ready to forgive and release past obligations or guilt. These often involve relationships where one soul believes they have failed another, caused harm, or not fulfilled their responsibilities. The echo appears to communicate that forgiveness is available, that the apparent debt has been released, and that both souls are free to move forward in their spiritual evolution. These echoes frequently occur around the time of death, either when someone is dying or after they have passed into spirit. The soul that has transitioned often communicates through name echoes to release the living soul from guilt, regret, or unfinished obligations. Mirror soul echoes involve your own soul calling you to deeper self-awareness and spiritual self-mastery. These echoes appear when you need to focus attention on your own spiritual development rather than seeking fulfillment through external relationships. You may see your own name reflected back through encounters with others, or you may see names that symbolically represent aspects of yourself that need attention and integration. Mirror echoes often appear when you have been too focused on others, either through codependency, people-pleasing, or constantly seeking external validation. Your soul uses these echoes to redirect your attention to the relationship with yourself and your own divine nature. Teaching echoes manifest when souls appear to deliver specific spiritual lessons that are needed for your growth. These souls may appear briefly in your life or may be people you never meet physically, but their names appear to remind you of important spiritual principles or to prepare you for upcoming growth experiences. Teaching echoes often involve souls who have mastered certain spiritual qualities that you are now ready to develop. Their name appearances serve as reminders to cultivate patience, compassion, courage, faith, or other virtues that your soul is working to embody. Guardian echoes come from souls who watch over you from other dimensions, deceased loved ones, spirit guides, or highly evolved souls who have taken responsibility for your spiritual protection and guidance. These echoes appear during challenging times to remind you that you are loved, supported, and never truly alone in your spiritual journey. Guardian echoes often intensify during periods of difficulty, transition, or spiritual testing. They serve to strengthen your faith, provide comfort, and remind you that you have invisible helpers assisting your soul's evolution. To identify which type of echo you are experiencing, pay attention to the feeling tone that accompanies the name appearances. Healing echoes often trigger initial fear or resistance, followed by a sense of release and peace. Service echoes create excitement about shared possibilities and recognition of complementary gifts. Love echoes generate deep heart opening and the desire to serve the other soul's highest good. Debt release echoes bring relief, forgiveness, and liberation from guilt. Mirror echoes create self-awareness and the recognition that you are your own teacher. Teaching echoes inspire you to develop specific spiritual qualities. Guardian echoes provide comfort, strength, and the feeling of being divinely protected. The spiritual timing of name appearances is always perfect, even when it doesn't seem convenient or comfortable to your ego. Echoes intensify during spiritual growth periods because your expanding consciousness becomes more receptive to soul communications. They often appear during life transitions, career changes, relationship beginnings or endings, health challenges, or geographic moves, because these transitions create openings in your normal routine that allow soul messages to penetrate your awareness. The connection between your spiritual development and echo intensity is direct. The more you develop spiritually, the more sensitive you become to the subtle communications from your soul and from other souls. This is why many people begin noticing synchronicities and name echoes when they start meditating, studying spiritual teachings, or consciously working on their inner development. Some echoes fade after delivering their message, while others continue as ongoing soul communications. Temporary echoes usually appear to deliver specific guidance, healing, or awakening, and then subside once their purpose is fulfilled. Persistent echoes indicate ongoing soul connections that are meant to be consciously maintained and developed over time. You can recognize when an echo cycle is completing by paying attention to your internal response to the name appearances. When the sight of the name no longer triggers intense emotional reactions, when you feel peaceful and complete about the connection, or when you sense that you have received and integrated the message the echo was bringing, the cycle is usually coming to completion. The sacred purpose behind each echo type serves your spiritual evolution and the evolution of all souls involved. Healing echoes facilitate forgiveness and the release of trauma that would otherwise be carried across lifetimes. Service echoes align souls for their divine mission of serving humanity's awakening. Love echoes teach the difference between conditional and unconditional love. Debt release echoes provide liberation from guilt and karmic obligations. Mirror echoes promote spiritual self-mastery and inner development. Teaching echoes accelerate spiritual growth by providing exactly the lessons needed for your current development. Guardian echoes offer protection, comfort, and the reassurance that you are beloved and supported by divine love. Now I'll teach you how to work consciously with these echoes, rather than simply wondering about their meaning or being confused by their appearances. The first step in working with karmic echoes is developing the ability to identify accurately which type of echo you are experiencing. This requires moving beyond ego interpretations and connecting with your soul's true understanding of the relationship. Begin each day with a meditation dedicated to connecting with the soul behind the name you keep seeing. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and bring this person's name into your heart center. Ask your soul to help you understand the spiritual purpose of this connection. Don't force insights or create fantasies, but simply remain open and receptive to whatever understanding arises naturally. Keep a journal dedicated to tracking patterns in name appearances. Note when the name appears, where you see it, what you were thinking or feeling at the time, and what life circumstances were occurring. Over time, patterns will emerge that help you understand the timing and purpose of the echo communications. Learn to distinguish between different types of echoes through feeling tone rather than mental analysis. Healing echoes often feel heavy or intense initially, but bring relief when approached with openness. Service echoes feel energizing and inspiring. Love echoes create heart expansion and the desire to serve. Debt release echoes bring lightness and freedom. Mirror echoes generate self-awareness and internal focus. Teaching echoes inspire growth and learning. Guardian echoes provide comfort and strength. Develop a practice of asking your soul-specific questions about each echo. What is the spiritual purpose of this connection? What am I meant to learn or heal through this relationship? How can I best serve the highest good of both souls involved? What actions, if any, should I take in response to this echo? Create a prayer technique for requesting clarity about karmic connections. Each time you see the name, offer a simple prayer such as, Divine Mother, help me understand the sacred purpose of this soul connection. Guide me to respond with wisdom and love for the highest good of all involved. Once you have identified the type of echo you are experiencing, the second step is learning how to engage consciously with the soul communication rather than simply being passively affected by the name appearances. For healing completion echoes, work with forgiveness practices that address both forgiving the other soul and asking forgiveness for any harm you may have caused. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but rather releasing the energetic charge that keeps both souls bound to past pain. Practice sending love and healing energy to the other soul through meditation and prayer. When working with service partnership echoes, use meditation to connect with the soul and explore how your gifts might complement each other in service to others. If practical collaboration is possible, approach it with clear intention to serve the highest good rather than ego gratification. If direct collaboration isn't feasible, you can still work together in spirit by dedicating your individual service to the same spiritual purposes. For love evolution echoes, practice heart-opening techniques that expand your capacity for unconditional love. Focus on loving the soul without attachment to specific relationship forms. Send the other soul blessing for their highest spiritual evolution and greatest happiness, even if that doesn't include a relationship with you. With karmic debt release echoes, engage in specific release rituals that formally let go of guilt, regret, or feelings of obligation. Write letters expressing forgiveness or apology that you may never send but that help you process and release the emotions. Practice gratitude for whatever gifts the relationship brought to your spiritual development. For mirror soul echoes, dedicate time to self-reflection practices that help you understand what aspects of yourself need attention and integration. Use the echo as motivation to develop a deeper relationship with your own soul through meditation, journaling, and spiritual study. Focus on becoming the person you seek rather than seeking that person externally. When experiencing teaching echoes, research the spiritual qualities that the soul represents and create practices to develop those qualities in yourself. Study the lives of people with this name who embodied spiritual virtues you admire. Use the echo as inspiration for your own spiritual development. For guardian echoes, develop practices of gratitude and communication with your spiritual helpers. Talk to them through prayer or meditation, asking for guidance and expressing appreciation for their protection and support. Trust that you are loved and guided even when you can't see or feel their presence directly. The crucial question that many people ask is when and how to take practical action based on echo guidance. The answer depends entirely on the type of echo and the specific guidance you receive through prayer and meditation. Some echoes are purely internal spiritual work that requires no external action. Others may guide you towards specific actions that serve the healing or spiritual purpose of the connection. Never take action based solely on seeing someone's name repeatedly. Always combine name echo awareness with prayer, meditation, and soul-level guidance about appropriate responses. If you feel called to contact someone, do so only if you can approach them with genuine spiritual motivation rather than ego needs or romantic fantasies. The third step in working with karmic echoes is learning to integrate their messages and recognize when their purpose has been fulfilled. This allows you to receive the full spiritual benefit of the connection without becoming attached to ongoing drama or intensity. You will know when an echo has delivered its complete message by paying attention to your internal state when you see the name. Initially, name appearances usually trigger strong emotional reactions: excitement, fear, longing, confusion, or intense curiosity. As you work consciously with the echo, an integrated spiritual message, these intense reactions gradually transform into peaceful acceptance and gratitude. When the sight of the name no longer creates internal turbulence but instead brings a sense of blessing, completion, or gentle joy, the echo has usually fulfilled its primary purpose. This doesn't mean the soul connection ends, but rather that it has evolved into a more mature and peaceful form. Practice gratitude regularly for all soul connections, especially those that challenge or trigger you. Every soul that appears in your life, whether through physical presence or echo communications, serves your spiritual evolution in some way. Acknowledging this service with gratitude helps complete the karmic exchange and frees both souls to continue their individual spiritual journeys. Develop methods for maintaining conscious connection without attachment. You can continue to send love, blessings, and prayers to souls you have echo connections with without needing ongoing personal involvement in their lives. This honors the eternal nature of soul connections while respecting the practical boundaries of current life circumstances. Learn to trust divine timing in echo relationships. Your soul and other souls operate according to perfect spiritual timing that may not match your personal desires or convenience. Trusting this timing allows relationships to unfold naturally, without force or manipulation. Create integration practices for applying echo lessons to your current life relationships and circumstances. The spiritual qualities you develop through working with karmic echoes, forgiveness, unconditional love, spiritual service, self-awareness, benefit all your relationships and spiritual development. Recognize signs that karmic patterns have successfully transformed. These include feeling peaceful about past relationships, no longer being triggered by memories of past pain, increased capacity for unconditional love, greater ability to serve others without attachment to outcomes, deeper connection with your own spiritual nature, and spontaneous forgiveness arising in challenging situations. Beloved soul, when you keep seeing someone's name, you are witnessing one of the most beautiful mysteries of spiritual life, the eternal dance of souls across time and space. These are not coincidences, but sacred communications from your soul about the most important relationships in your eternal journey. Every name echo is an invitation to grow, heal, serve, or awaken more fully to your divine nature. These appearances honor the sacred connections that transcend physical death, geographical distance, and even current life circumstances. Your soul recognizes its eternal family and calls your conscious mind to remember. The truth that transforms everything is understanding that love never dies. It only evolves into higher expressions of divine connection. Every soul you have ever loved deeply, every person who has touched your heart significantly, remains connected to you in the invisible realm of spirit. These connections continue to serve your spiritual evolution across all lifetimes, in forms that serve the highest good of all souls involved. From this day forward, when you see their name appearing, you will know, this is my soul speaking to me about unfinished love, unhealed wounds, uncompleted service, or unrealized spiritual potential. These echoes are gifts from the universe, reminding you that no meaningful connection is ever truly lost. Some echoes come to heal, some to inspire service, some to teach love, some to release guilt, some to awaken self-awareness, some to provide teaching, and some to offer protection and comfort. Each serves the perfect unfoldment of your soul's journey toward complete spiritual awakening. When you understand that every echo is a love letter from the universe, written in the language of synchronicity and delivered through the appearance of names, you transform from someone who is confused or obsessed by these appearances into someone who can read the spiritual messages they contain and respond with wisdom. You are never alone in this journey. You are part of an eternal spiritual family that spans all dimensions, all lifetimes, all forms of existence. The souls who echo in your awareness are reminders that love transcends every limitation that the human mind can conceive. Death cannot break these connections, distance cannot diminish them, and time cannot erase them. Every time you see their name, remember that you are beloved beyond measure, connected beyond separation, and supported beyond your ability to fully comprehend. These echoes are proof that you matter deeply to other souls, that your life has meaning that extends far beyond your current understanding, and that you are participating in a divine plan of love that encompasses all of creation. I honor the sacred echoes that connect my soul to other souls across time and eternity. I trust that every name I see repeatedly carries a message of love, healing, or spiritual growth. I am grateful for the invisible threads that weave my heart to my soul family throughout all lifetimes. I open myself to receive and understand the divine communications that come through these sacred signs, knowing that each echo serves my highest spiritual evolution and the good of all souls involved. If this teaching has illuminated the sacred meaning behind the names you keep seeing, please subscribe to receive more wisdom about the eternal journey of the soul and the divine connections that transcend all lifetimes. Like this video if you now understand that these name appearances are sacred messages rather than random coincidences. And please, share in the comments whose name you keep seeing and what type of karmic echo you believe it might be. Your sharing may help another soul understand their own sacred connections and find peace in knowing they are not alone in experiencing these mystical synchronicities. Remember, you are part of an eternal spiritual family, and love never dies. It only transforms into higher expressions of divine connection. Why is it that the soul stirs in the deep hours of the night? Why, when the world lies silent, do you awaken again and again at 3 a.m., as though called by an unseen voice? My beloved, it is not a mistake. It is not a dysfunction. It is not a random moment of sleeplessness to be dismissed. It is a summons, a divine tapping upon the door of your inner temple. When the mind is still, when the outer world is hushed, when the body lies soft and surrendered, this is when the soul can be heard again. And God, who whispers through silence, uses that hour to speak where your daytime distractions have grown too loud. You have wondered if something is wrong. You have feared perhaps that anxiety or fatigue or restlessness has claimed you. But what you call disturbance is often the soul waking up. For in the ancient sciences of yoga and divine communion, the early hours between 2 and 4 are known as the Brahma Muhurta, the hour of God. It is the hour in which spirit most easily touches the still soul. The vibratory currents of the world are at their lowest. The veil is thinnest. The soul floats closer to the astral. And so you are stirred, not by chaos but by invitation. To be awakened at 3 a.m. is not to be disrupted. It is to be called. Called to listen. Called to remember. Called to realign with the presence of God that waits within you like a silent light. You did not awaken by mistake. You were woken by grace. You were stirred by a power deeper than thought. You were lifted from your sleep not for punishment, but for presence. There are souls who go their entire lives without noticing the knock. But you noticed. You heard. You felt the oddness, the repetition, the pull. You opened your eyes in the darkness and felt that something was waiting for you, not outside but within. That, dear one, was the beginning of awakening. In those hours when the sky is still black and the birds have not yet sung and the machines of man are silent, the soul becomes audible. The breath becomes a prayer. The spine becomes a lamp. And if you listen, not with ears but with devotion, you will hear what the body cannot, the divine calling you by your true name. Say this now within: I no longer fear the night. I no longer curse the hour. I am being summoned, not disturbed. You keep waking at 3 a.m. because your soul is remembering its source. And now that you've heard the call, you must answer it, not with fear, but with stillness. When your eyes open at 3 a.m. and you lie in stillness, suspended between sleep and waking, you are closer than ever to remembering what you truly are. For in that sacred hush, your soul is not confined to the senses. The ego loosens its grip. The body quiets its demands. The mind, if you do not stir it, grows silent. And what remains is the gentle echo of something far more ancient than this life, the memory of your origin. You did not come from fear. You did not come from form. You came from light. To wake at that hour is not to be troubled. It is to be tenderly called back to the place from which you came. For while the world sleeps in forgetfulness, you are chosen for remembrance. In that moment, the inner sun begins to rise before the outer one. A soft, golden awareness begins to shimmer behind your thoughts, whispering, "You are more than this body. You are more than this dream. Come back to me." God does not speak in volume, but in vibration. And in the early morning, when everything else is quiet, even a faint divine whisper becomes a cosmic invitation. That whisper is what wakes you. That whisper is what stirs your heart at 3 a.m. It is not a sound. It is a pull, a gentle magnetic draw toward the source. You have forgotten perhaps during the day, but the soul never forgets. And when it senses that the body is soft and the ego is weary, it rises, it reaches, it listens again. You are not merely a human being trying to become spiritual. You are a spiritual being momentarily clothed in human experience, and that spiritual being does not rest when the body rests. It does not sleep as the ego sleeps. It continues to dwell in the eternal, reaching, yearning, vibrating with the song of home. When the body is still and the senses retreat, the soul can return to its native rhythm. And in that sacred hour, it whispers to you through dreams or feelings or a sudden wide-awake moment that you cannot explain. The light that called you into this world still burns at the base of your spine, still glows behind your gaze, still pulses at the heart of your being. That light calls you at 3 a.m., not to scare you, but to awaken you, to realign you, to remind you that no matter how chaotic the outer world becomes, your inner world remains untouched, radiant, divine. Say this now within. I was not born of fear, I was born of light. The night is not darkness. It is the canvas upon which my soul remembers. I am being drawn back to the source. You wake at 3 a.m. because God has not forgotten you. The divine calls when you are most ready to hear, and now you are listening. Many souls, when they wake at 3 a.m., feel a pressure in the chest, a racing of the thoughts, a sudden sense of vulnerability, and they think, why am I anxious? They assume it is worry, restlessness, perhaps the residue of yesterday's unfinished fears. But I tell you, the trembling you feel in the night is not the voice of fear. It is the movement of awakening. The soul, having stirred from beneath the layers of habit and thought, is now reaching. The discomfort is not dysfunction. It is spiritual labor. It is the friction that occurs when your true nature begins to rise through the density of illusion. Maya, the cosmic delusion, the veil of forgetfulness, wants you to believe that the night belongs to fear. It paints the hours before dawn in shadows. It fills your mind with echoes of doubt. It tells you, you are alone. You are broken. Go back to sleep. Forget what you felt. But this is Maya's deception. For 3 a.m. is not the hour of panic. It is the hour of perception. The veil is thinner, not just because the world is quiet, but because your ego is weakest. And in that space, truth can enter. What you feel as tightness in your chest is often the soul trying to expand. What you call racing thoughts is often the ego unraveling, retreating as the higher self reclaims the throne. And yes, it can feel uncomfortable. For when the illusion begins to break, when the house of cards starts to fall, it does not collapse quietly. But what arises from beneath the rubble is not anxiety. It is awareness. It is clarity. It is the first flicker of God remembrance. Do not misinterpret your awakening as anxiety. Do not call your divine stirring a symptom. The world has trained you to silence your soul's voice with explanations, pills, distractions. But I tell you, do not numb this holy discomfort. Sit with it. Breathe with it. Let it speak to you. For what is breaking open is not your peace. It is your prison. There is a secret fear in every ego that says, if I wake up fully, I will lose control. And it is right, for the ego cannot survive in the presence of divine awareness. So it resists these moments. It cloaks them in unease. It tries to put you back to sleep, but your soul has already opened its eyes. Now is the time to stay awake. Say this within, this is not panic, this is presence. This is not fear, this is expansion. I do not resist the stirring, I rise to meet it. Let Maya fall away. Let the mask of fear be pulled from the face of the sacred. What wakes you at 3 a.m. is not your worry, it is your freedom calling. When the divine wakes you at 3 a.m., it is not to confuse you, it is to reintroduce you to your soul's assignment. You may ask, what does it want from me? What am I meant to do with this hour? But the question itself assumes a task, an action, a doing. Yet in the higher realm, the moment is not asking you to act. It is asking you to attune. The night calls not for your performance, but for your presence. The darkness is not demanding solutions, but stillness. You are being asked to listen, to remember, and to surrender. At 3 a.m., The veil of identity is fragile. The mask you wear during the day, the worker, the friend, the parent, the planner, falls away in sleep. And when you awaken at that hour, your soul slips free for just a moment. It is like standing at the edge of a sacred ocean before the tides of the day have returned. And what do you do on that silent shore? You listen. You let the voice of the infinite speak through the language of silence. You are not meant to scroll a glowing screen. You are not meant to fill the void with noise. You are meant to become still, upright if possible, with spine like a candle, breath like prayer, and eyes turned inward to the sacred light. In that stillness, you ask no questions. You beg no answers. You simply say, I am here. I am listening. Speak, beloved, for I am yours. And then you wait, not for something to happen, but for what is already happening to be revealed. You may feel warmth behind your heart. You may feel tears rise without cause. You may feel peace bloom slowly in your belly, a flowering that cannot be explained. This is the reply. This is the answer. Not a voice from above, but a vibration from within. Your soul path will not be shouted, it will be shown, in silence, in symbols, in subtle rearrangements of energy. And every time you accept the invitation of 3 a.m., you train your inner ear to hear more clearly. You deepen your channel. You say to God, I am ready to walk with thee today. And if you feel nothing, if the silence stretches and your body aches and you want to return to sleep, that is fine. Say the words anyway. Open the temple anyway. Sit in the darkness anyway. For each repetition prepares the soul. Each return deepens your readiness. And there will come a morning when the message is heard and the tears flow, not from sorrow, but from recognition. Say now, I do not wake for no reason. I am being trained in the temple of the night. My soul knows why it rises. Let the silence of 3 a.m. become your sacred classroom, and the lesson will be who you truly are. If you have been called, you must learn to answer, not with confusion, but with sacred form. For the soul, though infinite in essence, responds beautifully to rhythm, posture, and breath. And when the veil lifts at 3 a.m., you are not to panic or search the mind for meaning. You are to breathe with God. The body may feel sluggish, the mind may resist. But if you gently obey the call with reverence, you will discover a doorway hidden in the darkness, a passage through which divine presence can enter. First, sit upright if you can. If you cannot, simply shift your spine slightly, as if rising within. Let the crown of your head gently lift. Place your attention, not aggressively, but faithfully, at the point between the eyebrows. This is the spiritual eye. This is the altar upon which your breath becomes prayer. Now inhale slowly through the nose. Let the air glide in as if God were entering with it. Feel it filling not just your lungs, but the sacred cave of your heart. On the inhale, say silently within, I am here. Hold that presence for just a moment. Now exhale softly through the mouth or nose, as if releasing all that clings to illusion. On the exhale, say silently, God is near. Again, inhale, I am here. Exhale, God is near. Let this become your mantra of union. Let the breath speak where words fail. Let the stillness between the breaths be where the soul listens. Continue for 5 cycles, 10 if you can. There is no right number, only sincerity. Let each breath soften the mind, calm the body, and draw you deeper into the subtle peace that was always waiting. And now when the breath has stilled, when the heart is quiet, say this prayer, aloud or within, with devotion, not demand. Beloved divine, you have called me. I am listening. Speak through my stillness. This is not an invocation of noise. This is an invitation to presence. Do not wait for thunder. Do not expect visions. If they come, bless them. If they do not, bless the silence more. For this practice is not a request for miracles. It is the miracle itself. Say now within, my breath is the bridge between God and me. I do not need to understand to trust. When I breathe with devotion, I am never alone. You have now answered the 3 a.m. call, not with analysis, but with union, not with fear, but with faith in silence. There is a secret hidden in the night, a truth that only the soul will understand. God wakes those he loves. The world has taught you to equate rest with health, uninterrupted sleep with peace, and early waking with disorder. But in the eyes of the divine, those whom he stirs in the night are not troubled. They are chosen, not in the sense of superiority, but in the sense of intimacy. The Father does not whisper into deaf ears. He speaks to the hearts that long to hear him. And often that whisper must come at 3 a.m. when all the other voices have gone to sleep. The yogis of old, the saints of every religion, the mystics who walk the line between worlds, they cherish the early hours, not because they despise sleep, but because they knew that the soul, in the stillness before dawn, is most receptive. It is then, when the ego has not yet reassembled, that the currents of divine grace flow most freely into the heart. They would rise in the Brahma Muhurta, the hour of God, to sit in silent meditation, their spines upright, their gazes lifted to the eye of spirit. Why? Because in those hours they were not merely practicing, they were listening. And now it is your turn. You too are being called, not because you are broken, but because you are ready. God does not stir souls who are not ripening toward remembrance. He does not knock on doors that cannot yet open. If you are waking at 3 a.m. again and again, it is not an error of biology. It is a summons of grace. The divine believes you are ready to enter deeper. The beloved has seen that your soul is leaning forward, yearning, aching, even if your conscious mind does not yet understand why. But why would God wake us through disturbance, you ask? Because love is not always gentle in appearance. Sometimes love shakes you. Love rattles your patterns. Love says, now is the moment. And if the soul does not answer, love knocks again, each time with more urgency, until at last the soul sits upright in the darkness and says, speak, Lord, I am here. What a blessing it is to be woken by the light. What a gift it is to be summoned from sleep, not by chaos, but by communion. The question is not, why am I being woken? The question is, why would I not listen when the beloved calls? Say this now. I am not being disturbed, I am being remembered. I am not being interrupted, I am being invited. The fact that I wake is proof that God has not forgotten me. So the next time your eyes open at 3 a.m., smile gently. For that darkness is holy, that silence is full. And the one who shaped stars and souls alike has remembered your name. Let me tell you a story, not with characters of flesh and bone, but with symbols that live in your own soul. There is a bell inside you, not a physical one, not made of metal, but a spiritual bell, cast from divine memory and devotion. When you were born into this world, the bell rang once, a pure, clear note that echoed, you have come from God, and you shall return to God. But as the years passed, the noise of the world grew louder. The bell was not broken, only buried, beneath ambition, beneath wounds, beneath forgetting. Yet the bell never ceased its sacred task. Each time your soul drifted too far from its source, it would ring again, softly at first, a subtle discontent, a faint stirring in your chest, a restless whisper, and then louder, a sleepless night, a repeated dream, a 3 a.m. awakening that would not go away. The bell was never punishing you. It was calling you home. And now you wonder, why do I keep waking night after night? The answer is this. The bell is still ringing. It will not stop until you answer. Not because God is impatient, but because the time has come. You may have ignored the earlier chimes. You may have rolled over in spiritual sleep. But the soul knows what the mind forgets. The hour is now. The call is real. And so the bell rings again. Each time you open your eyes at 3 a.m., you are not beginning a new disturbance. You are continuing a conversation that began long ago. The bell is tuned to your soul's frequency. It cannot be heard by others, for it was cast for you. And it will not fall silent until the soul stands up, bows its head and says, I hear you, I remember, I return. Say this now within. There is a bell inside me. It rings not to warn, but to awaken. I will no longer ignore the sound. I will rise when it calls. You are not being tormented by repetition. You are being gently pulled back into divine alignment, again and again, until you surrender, until you answer, until you listen deeply enough to stay awake. Now that you understand why the call keeps coming, let us sanctify your response. Let us make this hour of mystery no longer a space of confusion, but a portal of peace. When you awaken at 3 a.m. again, and you will, you must not roll in resistance or reach for distractions. Instead, let that moment become your altar. Let it become a sacred chamber between the worlds, where the breath becomes prayer and the body becomes a living temple. There is no need for complexity, only presence, only surrender, only breath. First, become still. Do not flick on lights. Do not sit in harsh posture. Just gently elevate the spine, if even slightly, so that the current of energy may rise. Let your hands rest upon your lap. Let your eyelids remain soft. Let your gaze be turned inward and slightly upward, toward the spiritual eye. Let the body become silent and the soul begin to speak. Now breathe. Inhale slowly, drawing not just oxygen, but divine remembrance. And with your inhale, say silently, "This body sleeps." Exhale even slower, releasing the day, the thought, the name. And as you exhale, whisper within, "But my soul is awake in thee." Inhale, "This body sleeps." Exhale, "But my soul is awake in thee." Let this be the rhythm, the mantra, the bridge between the seen and the unseen. Do this for as long as you are moved, 5 minutes, 10, or even just 3 deep cycles if that is all the body permits. The length matters less than the devotion. You are not performing, you are returning. And when the body softens and the mind grows silent, say this final phrase, not as a wish, but as a decree. This night belongs to God. This soul belongs to light. I rest in sacred remembrance. Then lie back down. Do not resist sleep if it comes. Do not chase dreams. Simply rest in the echo of your own offering. The night will take you not into confusion, but into communion. And the 3 a.m. hour, once feared or misunderstood, will now feel holy. Say now, I will no longer fear the hour. I will meet it with breath and blessing. I will turn it into my sanctuary. You have not merely responded to the call. You have consecrated the moment, and now the divine will meet you there, every time. When the soul begins to listen, even subtly, the world around it begins to change. Not because outer circumstances shift overnight, but because the inner frequency is no longer the same. You will begin to notice, quietly, almost imperceptibly, that what once weighed you down has begun to lift, not with fanfare, not with applause, but with still, golden awareness. This is how grace arrives, not loudly, but thoroughly. The first sign is clarity, a sudden knowing that was not present the day before. You might not have answers to all your questions, but the questions themselves feel less sharp, less urgent. There is a spaciousness between your thoughts. You are no longer tangled in mental spinning. The inner landscape feels more open, more receptive. It is as if you have stepped back and remembered that the game being played is not the full story. Then comes peace, not the peace of escape, but the peace of union, an unshakable sense that even in your challenges, even in your griefs, there is an undercurrent of divine order. It does not mean the storms end, but the lightning no longer frightens you. You begin to carry stillness with you, like a candle lit during the night. Others may not see it, but they will feel it, and some will be drawn to it without knowing why. You will notice dreams shifting, less chaos, more guidance, less fear, more symbols. You may begin to wake with insights, names, or scriptures on your lips. You may begin to understand what your soul has long been trying to say. And even if you don't understand, you will trust that something higher is speaking. You may also notice synchronicities, patterns, alignments, a book that appears at the right time, a conversation that confirms a hidden longing, a phrase that echoes something your soul whispered in silence. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. They are the divine saying, "Yes, beloved, I have heard you. You have listened, and I now respond." And most of all, you will notice a strength that does not come from will, a courage that does not arise from ego, a sacred endurance that comes from walking, not alone, But with God, you are no longer afraid of the night. You are no longer afraid of the silence. You are no longer afraid of being called in the darkness. Because now you know the call is holy. Say now within, I walk with clarity. I dwell in peace. I follow the signs of spirit, and I am never alone. When you begin to listen to the 3 a.m. call, your life will not be louder. It will be lighter. And now, beloved one, let us seal this holy transmission. You have felt the stirring. You have seen the signs. You have heard the unspoken invitation. And though the world may continue to sleep in forgetfulness, you have remembered. You have remembered that you are not just flesh bound to routine, not just a mind entangled in problems. You are a soul called by light, chosen by the divine to awaken in the silence when others are unaware. The 3 a.m. hour is not a burden. It is a blessing. It is the time when God brushes close to your being, when the Spirit seeks you not through thunder, but through the quiet knock. And each time you rise, not with anxiety, but with reverence, you deepen the bridge between your mortal life and your immortal self. You are not waking without reason. You are not stirred in vain. You are being brought back to what the soul has always known. You were sent here to remember, and in remembering, to radiate. You may never be able to explain this to others. You may find no scientific justification, but in your spirit, you will know. You will feel the shift, the quiet joy, the trembling peace. The hour that once frightened you now feels like sanctuary. The darkness that once held discomfort now feels like an embrace. This is what happens when the soul says yes. Tonight, or some night soon, you will wake again. And when you do, smile inwardly. Let your breath speak before your voice. Let your body remember the ritual. Let your heart say again, Beloved Divine, you have called me, I am listening. Speak through my stillness. Then rest, or sit in the silence, or breathe in light and exhale peace. There is no wrong way to return home, but return you must, because the 3 a.m. hour is not simply a time. It is a threshold of the soul. And now I ask you, right below this offering, at 3 a.m., I will listen for God. Let it be your public vow. Let it be your signal to the infinite that you have heard the call. Let it become the first ripple of awakening for others. And as you write it, may this blessing fall upon you. May your awakenings be gentle and radiant. May your soul grow bold in the silence. May your nights become temples and your breath a prayer. May you never again wake in fear, but always in remembrance. You are not being haunted. You are being honored. You are not being disturbed. You are being invited. You are not alone. You are being loved awake.
My beloved, when love tears through your heart like a storm, when the absence of someone floods your soul with an ache so deep you cannot name it, pause, breathe, and ask not merely, why does this hurt, but rather, who have I remembered? For sometimes the pain you carry in this life is not new. It is not random. It is not the product of mere coincidence or chemistry. It is the echo of a love that did not begin in this lifetime, and it is the residue of separation that did not truly end when that body walked away. The soul does not forget. Though the body changes, though the names are different and the face is new, the heart recognizes. And in that recognition, the ancient ache returns, not to punish, but to awaken. You wonder why it hurts so much, why someone who just walked into your life could feel like someone you've known forever, why one glance can undo you, why one goodbye can feel like death. The reason is simple, though invisible to the eyes. You have met before, not once, but many times. You have walked together through other worlds, other incarnations, other lifetimes woven through the tapestry of God's dream. You have been lover, friend, teacher, child, enemy. You have wept together, laughed together, prayed side by side. And now, once again, you meet, not by chance, but by divine rhythm, not to start again, but to complete what was never finished. This is the mystery of karma. The souls you feel most drawn to are not random. They are echoes of an unfinished symphony, a melody your soul still remembers. Like a fragrance on the wind that takes you back to a home you never quite recall, you meet a soul and something ancient stirs. The body trembles, the heart aches, and you say, Where have I known you before? But the mind does not remember, only the soul sings. And yet, because the mind cannot explain, it resists. It says, "This cannot be. I've only known them a few weeks. I must be weak. I must be mad." But no, dear one, you are not mad. You are remembering. The grief you feel is not weakness, it is awakening. It is the veil being lifted for a moment, and that is why it hurts. Not because the love is wrong, but because the soul knows this loss is not new. It is the continuation of a pattern older than your present breath. So do not let the world convince you that deep love must be logical. Do not believe that your ache is invalid just because time cannot measure it. Divine love does not obey the clock. It does not follow the calendar. It follows the law of soul gravity. What is not resolved returns. What is sacred continues. What is meant to free you, if clung to, will break you. Let me share with you a sacred truth from the inner worlds. The moment two souls meet in this life with great intensity, it is because one or both has unfinished spiritual work. The pain comes not from the meeting, but from the clinging, from the attempt to possess what was never yours to hold, from the fear that if they leave again you will be lost. But I say, you were never truly separated. What you loved then, you love now. What was lost was not the soul, but the form. Imagine a dream you once had, vivid, glowing, filled with someone who made your heart whole. Then imagine waking up and walking into the day and meeting a stranger whose voice matches the dream. Your soul leans forward. Your breath pauses. And though your mind says, "This is new," something deeper says, "I know you." That is past life love. That is divine memory reawakened. But that memory, if not understood, becomes attachment. It becomes suffering. You cry not only because of what is happening, but because of what is echoing. And so, child of light, let me whisper gently, this pain is not just yours. It is the soul recalling 1,000 unmet goodbyes. It is the echo of sacred promises made when the stars were in a different sky. And yes, it is real, but it is also not the end. This ache is a doorway. Will you walk through it blindly, grasping, or will you pass through it with awareness, with reverence, with divine remembrance? Say it with me now, inwardly. I am remembering, not breaking. I am awakening, not falling. Let your breath carry this truth. Inhale, memory. Exhale, illusion. For the pain is not the enemy. It is the teacher returning to finish the lesson. Beloved, now that you have opened your heart to the truth that pain is often memory cloaked in emotion, let me take you deeper, into the sacred mechanics of why this love feels so timeless, and why its ending, or its distance, cuts through you like a blade of divine fire. What you call love is not born in the heart alone. It is born in the soul, and the soul does not forget. What seems new to the body is ancient to the spirit. The person you cannot forget, the one who lives in your thoughts like a prayer, the one whose presence electrifies you even in silence. They have traveled with you through lifetimes. You see, the soul is not bound by one birth and death. It is a wave on the eternal sea of spirit, rising and falling in different forms, different centuries, different bodies, but always drawn toward its source. And in this grand journey, it travels not alone. Souls move in groups, in sacred constellations, weaving in and out of each other's lives like stars in a cosmic dance. Those who come into your life with intensity, those who awaken something deeper than desire, are almost always part of your karmic family. Some are there to remind, some to complete, some to release, and all are there to awaken. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt the world vanish? Have you ever spoken with a stranger and wept afterward for reasons you could not explain? That is not fantasy. That is remembrance. That is the soul saying, "Ah, there you are again." The ego does not understand. The intellect fumbles, but the soul knows. It knows the one who held your hand as you left another world. It knows the one who broke your heart in another life so that you would finally look to God. It knows the one whose love was so pure, you vowed to find them again, no matter the cost. These vows are not made lightly. They are the silent agreements of the soul, etched in vibrational memory. And so, when you meet them again, whether for reunion or release, the meeting is not casual. It is charged, it is magnetic, and it pulls from you tears, joy, longing, fear, all the stored energy of lives you no longer recall, but your soul remembers. It always remembers. And yet, with this recognition comes great sorrow. Why? Because sometimes what is remembered is also unfinished. Perhaps you parted in grief. Perhaps the lesson was not complete. Perhaps you clung to a form of love instead of its divine essence. And so the ache returns, not because love has failed, but because love has been reawakened, still raw, still unresolved. This is the danger and the gift of karmic love. It pierces you not where you are most strong, but where you are still healing. It brings light to where the shadow lives, and that light can feel like fire. The person may love you, or they may leave you. They may comfort you, or they may trigger the old ache until it bleeds. But either way, they are serving the divine purpose, to bring the forgotten wound to the surface so it can finally be healed. You are not suffering because you are weak. You are suffering because something ancient within you has stirred, and the pain is the cost of resurrection. Like an old temple being uncovered after centuries of dust, the soul's memory must be excavated, and that process is never without tears. Imagine the soul like a great manuscript written over lifetimes. Each person you meet is a sentence from that script. Some are chapters, some are footnotes, some are the final punctuation on a story that began long before you ever spoke their name. And when that chapter ends, when that soul departs, it is not the loss of a person you grieve. It is the return of a longing you had buried beneath the illusion of time. So let us honor this hurt, not indulge it, not cling to it, but honor it. This is not madness. This is the sacred ache of memory rising, and it comes not to bind you, but to liberate you from illusion. Breathe now. Inhale with the soul. Exhale with surrender. And say inwardly, I remember you. I release you. I return to the one who sent us both. For no karmic tie, however deep, is greater than your bond with the divine. And now, dearest soul, let us cross the threshold from remembrance to revelation. You have felt the ache. You have seen the karmic pattern emerge in your heart. You have traced the pain to its source in past life ties. But a question still lingers like incense in the air. Why? Why would God, who is love, allow the return of someone only to take them again? Why would the infinite reopen a wound the soul worked so hard to forget? I will tell you, with the clarity of inner vision, because he loves you too much to let you sleep, because he knows that the pain you feel is not a punishment, it is an awakening. The soul does not grow in comfort, it grows in fire. And the deepest fire, the one that sears away ego faster than 1,000 sermons, is the pain of sacred love. When someone you have loved for lifetimes appears again in your life, not to fulfill you, but to test your freedom, that is divine courage in action. That is God's call to the highest path, the path of liberated love. You see, we often think love should complete us, make us whole, make us feel secure, safe, grounded. But true love, divine love, does not seek to enclose. It seeks to expand. And expansion often feels like breaking. That soul you ache for, that soul who has shaken you, opened you, wounded you, they are not your anchor. They are your mirror. They have come not to stay necessarily, but to show you what still owns you, where you still cling, where you still fear. And so, God allows it, not in cruelty, but in mercy. He allows your past life love to return, sometimes for a brief moment, sometimes only to awaken the ache, and then to vanish. Why? Because the soul cannot carry attachments into the kingdom, because liberation cannot coexist with possession, because your vow is to God, not to any one soul, no matter how familiar their face. Let me speak this gently, for it is hard truth wrapped in divine softness. Sometimes God will break your heart open, not to wound you, but to widen you, so that your love may pour out of its small container and merge back into the ocean it came from. That ocean is God, and he is jealous not in wrath but in remembrance. He wants you back, not just a piece of you, but all of you. And if you gave your soul to someone in a past life and forgot your vow to the infinite, he will return that soul to you, not to keep, but to complete the letting go. Do not fear this. This is divine courage. This is the spiritual warrior's path. This is not lovelessness. It is higher love. Love that does not grasp. Love that does not demand. Love that bows and says, "Thank you for reminding me. Now I return to the one behind your eyes." Take a breath now. Not a shallow breath, but one from the belly of your being. Inhale and feel the ache. Exhale and feel the release. Say inwardly, "I have loved you across lifetimes, but now I love you in freedom. I give you back to God." And feel what happens. Not emptiness, but lightness. This is divine courage, not the absence of love, but the willingness to love without chains. This is why he allowed it, so you could finally love as he does, eternally and without fear. Beloved, let us now look more clearly at the signs, the sacred fingerprints, that reveal when you are standing in the presence of a karmic soul. These moments are not ordinary. They are drenched in vibration, in remembrance, in the holy ache of déjà vu. The mind may doubt, but the heart will know, and the soul will tremble, not in fear, but in recognition. When karmic bonds appear, something ancient stirs, something that says, "This is not our first hello." The first sign is intensity without explanation. You meet them, and everything shifts. Time slows. The air thickens. Your senses sharpen. You do not know why you feel so drawn, but the pull is magnetic. Their presence ignites something that no logic can name. You feel as if you've walked into a room where your soul has already been waiting. It is not newness you feel, it is remembrance. The intensity is not emotion alone. It is vibrational memory rising from lifetimes stored in your astral body. The second sign is deep resonance at the first meeting. The words come easily. The silence feels safe. You feel seen, heard, held, even before you share your story. Their voice sounds familiar. Their laugh stirs a warmth you forgot you knew. Sometimes just being near them makes you weep, not from sadness, but from the flood of unspeakable recognition. This is not attraction. This is soul frequency alignment, like two notes of the same scale vibrating across time, harmonizing again in this fleeting world. The third sign is that lessons always walk hand in hand with love. These relationships are never smooth forever. They bring up your shadows. They shake your walls. They expose your fears, your attachments, your unhealed wounds. Why? Because karmic love is transformational, not transactional. These souls come to help you evolve, not to entertain your comfort. They love you enough to trigger you, and in doing so, they lead you back to your own wholeness. Sometimes the bond burns hot and short. Other times, it lingers across decades. But in either form, you will notice the fourth sign, a feeling that you are in the presence of a contract, a spiritual agreement. You sense that you and this soul came here with a purpose, whether to fulfill, to release, or to transcend. There is an unspoken vow, an unfinished thread from a former incarnation now tugging at your heart in this one. Let me offer you this image. Imagine sending a letter across time, a message from a former life, sealed with longing, signed with prayer. And one day, someone walks into your life, and they carry it in their eyes. They don't even know it. But when they look at you, the letter opens, and everything inside you begins to unfold. That is a karmic bond. Let us pause now. Let your breath slow. Let your gaze soften. And ask gently, is there someone in my life whose presence feels ancient? Not just familiar, ancient. If so, bow, not to the person, but to the divine rhythm that brought them to you. Say with me now, if you have come to awaken me, I will not cling. I will remember and rise. For the karmic bond is not the end. It is the bell of awakening, ringing you toward the eternal. Ah, beloved, here is where the soul trembles most. What do I do when I cannot let them go? You know the connection is karmic. You feel the echo of past lives, the intensity of recognition. the sacred ache of parting, and yet, your hands still reach, your heart still cries, your mind replays every moment like a soul trying to reopen a door that was never truly closed. Let me speak to you now, not as a teacher above you, but as a friend who has walked this path across many births. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply remembering love without understanding how to hold it in freedom. The greatest illusion in love is that letting go means losing, that release equals abandonment. But this is not so. In divine truth, release is return. It is the act of placing what you love back into the hands of the one who first gave it. The person you cling to is not yours. They never were. They were lent to you by God, not to possess, but to awaken. And when the lesson is complete, when the rhythm has played its measure, the soul must offer them back, not as loss, but as liberation. If you cannot stop thinking of them, then use that thought to sanctify your love. When their memory arises, do not resist it. Do not spiral in longing. Instead, turn the memory into a mantra. Say inwardly, "Beloved, I see you in them. I remember you through them. But now I look beyond the form and see only you." Every time the ache returns, let it become a doorway. Each tear becomes a holy offering. Each sigh becomes a prayer. This is the sacred alchemy. You take human love and transmute it into devotion. You do not have to stop loving them. You only have to stop thinking they are the source. Let them become the channel, not the cause. For all love, yes, all love, is love of God disguised in form. And when you see through the disguise, the attachment loosens, not because you care less, but because you see more clearly. And now I offer you a practice, simple but soul deep. Find a quiet place, sit tall, let the breath calm the waves of thought. Bring their image to your mind, not to cling, but to honor. See them not as the one who hurt you or healed you, but as a soul sent to awaken your memory. Then, with your inner gaze, place their form in a sphere of golden light. Let it rise. Offer it upward, not as dismissal, but as a gift. Say inwardly, "You came to remind me of a love beyond form. I now return you to that source. I set you free. I set myself free." Then place your hand on your heart and repeat, "We met for remembrance, not possession. I love you in freedom. I walk forward in God." And breathe. Breathe like one who is no longer chasing, no longer fleeing, only being. Let the ache dissolve into gratitude. Let the longing soften into light. Release is not the end of love. It is its highest form. To let go with reverence is to say, "Our souls are eternal. I do not need to hold you to remember you. I do not need to keep you to thank you. I only need to keep walking into the light you awakened in me." This is transcendence. This is action made sacred. This is love made whole. Beloved soul, now that you have released them into the light, now that you have honored the ache without allowing it to bind you, let me remind you of a truth so radiant, so liberating, it will carry you through every goodbye you ever face. You were never truly separated, not from them, not from love, and certainly not from God. The pain of separation is only real to the senses, to the mind, to the ego which believes love must be proven by presence. But the soul knows better. The soul sees what the eyes cannot see. It hears what the ears cannot hear, and in that quiet knowing, the soul whispers, "They are not gone. They have only changed form." You may miss their voice, their laughter, the touch of their hand, but what you truly loved was never those things. What you truly loved was the divine essence shining through them, the presence behind the personality, the soul behind the smile, and that essence is eternal. It can never be lost, because it is not theirs alone. It is God's within them. Let me share this image with you. Imagine a beautiful mirror reflecting the morning sun. You fall in love with the glow, the warmth, the brilliance. But one day, the mirror is taken away. The light seems to vanish. You mourn the loss. But was it ever the mirror you truly loved? Or was it the light behind it, the light that still shines, waiting to be seen in other forms? This is the great illusion. We mistake the form for the source. We cling to the vessel and forget the wine. But now, awakened in pain, you begin to see clearly. The love you felt was never trapped in one body, one name, one lifetime. It was God reminding you of Himself through them. You were drawn to them because their vibration mirrored your soul's longing. But that vibration was never theirs alone. It was the echo of the divine. And so, even though the form may fade, the real connection cannot be severed, for it was never based on time or distance. It was based on truth. This is why saints can love all beings equally. This is why awakened souls feel oneness with strangers, because they have pierced the veil of form and see only the one beloved, playing through many faces, many roles. You too can love this way. You are already beginning. Each time you release someone with reverence, each time you bless the memory instead of gripping it, you are remembering how to see God through the person, not just the person as God. And so I say to you now, do not despair when someone walks away. Do not fall into the lie that you are abandoned. Look deeper. Love deeper. Remember the truth. What is real cannot be lost. What is of God cannot die. You are still connected, soul to soul, light to light, in the presence that pervades all things. Let us seal this truth with breath. Inhale now, gently, and say inwardly, I was never alone. Exhale softly. I was always in the presence of divine love. Write this in your heart, dear one. I did not lose you. I remembered the one through you, and that one has never left. This is the confidence of the soul, quiet, undisturbed, eternal. Dearest soul, by now you have walked through the fire of memory, longing, and sacred release. You have tasted the pain of karmic remembrance and the sweetness of spiritual freedom. But let me tell you, transcendence is not a single act. It is a practice. It is a daily turning of the soul toward truth, a gentle realignment of the heart's gaze away from form and toward the formless. You do not heal once and forever. You heal daily, and each day becomes your temple. Begin your mornings not in reaction to the world, but in remembrance of eternity. Before the mind starts reaching for messages, images, regrets, place your hand on your heart and say softly, no love is ever wasted. No soul I've loved is forgotten by God. All that is true returns to light. Say it not with longing, but with conviction. Let this affirmation anchor you in the morning silence. Let it be your compass. And throughout the day, the mind will wander. A face will flash in memory. A longing will rise uninvited. Do not scold yourself. Do not fear the ache. Instead, consecrate it. Say, thank you, divine beloved, for this moment of remembrance. I now return it to you. Make your heartbreak an altar. Make your longing a ladder. Each time you remember them, breathe, and say inwardly, I do not cling, I transmute. In the evening, before sleep carries you into subtler realms, pause, reflect. Not on the wound, but on the wisdom. Ask gently, what is the soul trying to show me through this ache? Journal it if you must. Write not from pain, but from presence. Let the night be your teacher. Let each tear water the roots of divine clarity. And if the questions return, why did they leave? Why did it end? Why did I feel so much? Replace them with this sacred shift. What did they awaken in me? What part of God's love did I taste through them? What was I being asked to surrender? This transforms sorrow into wisdom, emotion into insight, karma into grace. You see, bravery on the spiritual path is not always loud. It does not always roar. Sometimes it is quiet. It is the bravery of choosing stillness instead of chasing closure, of choosing release instead of repeating the same soul drama. It is the courage to love with open hands, to remember with reverence, but not with bondage. Let your breath be your daily ritual, not as a technique, but as a sacrament. With each inhale, say, I receive divine love. With each exhale, I release all clinging. Do this not as an escape from pain, but as a return to the self beyond all pain. And say with me now, gently but with power, I am not broken, I am awakening. This love did not end, it expanded. I do not fear the memory, I walk forward with God. For the soul that practices remembrance in this way becomes fearless, and to become fearless in love is to become limitless. Now, beloved, let me whisper to your soul the truth that will carry you beyond this pain, beyond this lifetime, beyond all illusion. Love cannot be lost. Not true love, not soul love, not divine love. For what is real is never bound to time. What is holy is never diminished by distance. And what is born of God can never be broken, not by death, not by parting, not even by forgetting. You have loved them in a past life. Yes. And that is why it hurts so deeply now. But listen closely. What hurts is not the loss of them. What hurts is the closing of a door that once opened you to the infinite. That ache is not a wound. It is a window through which God called to you and said, "Remember me in this form." And when the form is gone, do not forget the source. Your love was never wasted. Not one tear was meaningless. Every heartbeat, every embrace, every goodbye, every longing gaze was recorded in the sacred memory of spirit. Nothing was lost. All was transmuted. All was used to bring you closer to your divine home. So now stand tall in your soul, not in arrogance, but in reverent strength. You have remembered what few are willing to see, that love is not ownership. That loss is not the end. That every person you have ever loved is but a reflection of the one beloved behind all forms. They came to remind you. They came to awaken you. And in their leaving, they have offered you the greatest gift, the invitation to return to the source of love itself. Let this be your vow now, not just for them, but for every soul who has stirred your heart across lifetimes. I will no longer chase forms. I will seek the light behind the form. I will love with remembrance, not with fear. I release you not to forget you, but to meet you again in freedom, in light, in God. Write it down, speak it aloud, let the cells of your being know it, for in that vow, the pain becomes peace, the ache becomes clarity, the longing becomes liberation. And now, as we close, let your breath become your prayer. Inhale, feel the vastness of the soul. Exhale, release all that is not eternal. Inhale, I am eternal love. Exhale, I walk with God now. You loved them before, you love them still. But now you know, it was never about holding them. It was about remembering who you are through them. Go forward now, not as one broken by love, but as one reborn through it. Om Shanti, peace. The eternal flame within you now burns brighter.